This is a Cosmic Octave original podcast.
Me and Jake running down the street with a handful of comic books, kicking ass and banging chicks and drinking booze
No, not
and
me.
smoking
Not
weed.
me. I'm married.
Yeah, well,
I'm married.
Jake.
Can't do that.
Yeah. Off panel, off topic with Jake and Tyler.
I screwed everything up, everybody. I'm sorry. I was gonna play the Alex Jones vampire sound that I have because it's spooky. 'Cause he says, "I'll drink your blood," and then no, I could find maybe 965 million reasons to not like Alex Jones. So
I do love a really good Alex Jones meme though, or the auto-tune songs
yeah, well, my co-host doesn't have her mic all the way up to her face.
I'm so sorry.
I know. It's just me. I don't know. See, the problem is I don't know how to subtly be like, move it into your face. Because when I have the table set up and we have the stand, I just casually slide the stand closer to their face.
Right.
But this is my guest, Grace Cole, by the way.
Hello.
You have not been on this feed yet. You weren't even on Tinfoil. It's a long time coming. I was on your podcast.
That's true. I was supposed to be on Tinfoil, and then I think it was just COVID and all that stuff.
After a while, when you swim in the cesspool of these people, of Alex Jones and Glenn Beck and all those people, it doesn't help your mental health. So we stopped doing that. We started doing this podcast. And here we are. We did a horror podcast together, which I'm thinking I was a guest on. I'm thinking next year, because this is the off-panel, off-topic Spooktacular, everybody. Right. This is all horror movies and all. So if you don't like it, don't listen. And back to not regular programming, because this is special, because we got Spooktacular. Then the next Monday, it's the 25th anniversary of Starship Troopers. So we're doing a Starship Troopers retrospective the next week. So.
That'll be fun.
And this is right after our Black Adam episode. So who knows?
Anything can happen.
And I don't know the Black Adam episode because we're recording it out of order. So anyway, the Spooktacular is what we're doing this week. And since I want to do this as a yearly thing, because we could go broad and we could be like candy and costumes.
Right. There's so much you can
There's
talk
so
about,
much you could put into that. But I was like, no. You gotta put that in the tank. Save that for future Spooktaculars. We didn't even do one last year. So this is a big deal.
Right.
Spooktacular 1, everybody.
The first annual.
Just like Simpsons Roman numeral, just I. So what were we talking about today? Well, I wanted to kind of do something still a little broad and still just talk about horror movies themselves, narrow it down to just that. But I kind of want to talk about our favorite ones. When you think of this Halloween, when you think of October, what are some horror movies that you just always want to watch, or just horror movies? Well, it's different for you because you watch horror movies in July or whatever.
I sure do.
But just kind of what we really like and what makes a good horror movie to us. And honestly, we could kind of just start back to square one. Grace, what initially kind of drew you to horror movies?
I was thinking about this the other day, actually. I don't know. I can't remember a time where I was like, ooh, this is something I want to,
It's you can't think about it when you should think it.
Exactly.
Hey, we're doing a podcast. Think of some ideas. And you're like, I got nothing.
Well, and it's just kind of always the way that I was. And I remember when I was, younger, around Halloween, they would play The Scariest Places on Earth, that TV show. And every year I had to watch it. And I think that it's one of those, when you're a kid, you're like, ooh, that's, weird and creepy, and I need to know more about it. And I said when you're a kid, I'm still like that. You know, just the macabre and the strange and the unusual just is very fascinating.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is curiosity. I think it's, when you look at Dahmer, that whole, the Netflix thing came out. Because I feel conflicted. Because and I've not watched the show, but I've heard the show kind of goes a little bit more out of its way than other stuff to kind of talk about the victims and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I think it's the same concept of why people get attracted to true crime, where it's you're curious about this and you want to know more about this, but you shouldn't, because it's like and I'm not criticizing anybody for enjoying true crime. I do. Like, everybody watches it.
Yeah.
Because everybody loves train wrecks.
Right.
And I think that's kind of part of it, is like we love the idea. Because if you think about it, when you're watching Friday the 13th, or you're watching Halloween, or you're watching, Nightmare on Elm Street, most of the time you're rooting for the bad guy.
Yeah.
And I think I think that's kind of the appeal of it, maybe, is like,
right.
Ooh, there's these things that I shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Because what do? When you watch them, you're like, ooh, how creative are they going to kill this person?
Exactly. Well, and I took a zombie film studies class in college. And one of the things that we talked about was, why do we love zombie films? Why do we laugh when a zombie gets like run over by a car and their head explodes, whatever? Because if you saw that in your day to day, you wouldn't laugh at that, right? Because it's horrifying.
As someone who's seen someone get hit by a car in real time, it's horrifying. Let me tell you.
Well, that got real.
Funny story. It was a quick story. I was on my way to a class, and it was when I was living in Lincoln, and it was on the other side of the street, because it was one of those like divided ones, So I was going one way, and they were going the other direction. I didn't hit anybody. I want to make that very clear. But the car on the other side, I saw these kids, and this would be around school. This would be in the fall. And these kids are running over to the other side of the street. And I think there was like 3 of them. And the other 2 made it. The third kid, not so much. And I was just, because it was like watching it in slow motion. And I don't know why that car took so long, like why that car didn't stop sooner, because the kid wasn't going super fast. Yeah. And I'm only making these jokes because the kid was fine. But it's horrifying, and you would not laugh, because the kid got hit and his shoe flew away, and I didn't know, like, it was crazy. Yeah.
Well, and I think, like, when you see something like that in real life, like, something's actually at stake,
it
right?
Shook me.
Yeah, like, a person could die. Yeah. And if you're watching a movie, it's fake. Like,
right, yeah,
you're safe.
There's the fourth wall to,
Yeah. And so that's what we surmised in this class, was that there's a safe element where that it's not real, and so something becomes comical because your brain just can't process it.
Which is why I think I saw more of an appeal in slashers, because the kills get so ridiculous.
They do.
So over the top. They're comedic.
Well, like in, what is it, Friday the 13th Part 7, I think, when the girl's in the sleeping bag and he like throws her against the tree.
Jason X. Because it was in the simulation in the ship.
It happened before that as well, though. It was in a different movie. Yeah, I just know I love Kane Hodder.
Right, that kill has happened a couple times.
Yeah. But like like that is ridiculous. It's so crazy. But people love it. It's their favorite one.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Because I think you're in the same boat as I am. Were you exposed to them at a younger age than you probably should have been?
Friday the 13th. No, I did see the.
Well, I'm just saying horror movies
in general. My dad let me watch the original It when I was 2 years old, and now I am petrified of clowns. So yes, I did see the second Halloween film when I was 7 or 8, and I remember loving that.
And that did not connect with you at all.
No,
because you don't have a bunch of Michael Myers.
No, I definitely do not have a Michael Myers bobblehead in my car. I do not have Michael Myers tattooed upon my body.
Yeah. What a shitty franchise, right? You just.
It's the worst, I tell you.
So you were 8. Yeah, I was. My brother is about 7 years older than me, and he was into horror movies. So that's kind of how I got into it.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how your setup at home was, but like the basement was our domain.
Yeah. Like
their parents were upstairs. We were pretty much always hanging out downstairs, and he would buy these DVDs and stuff, and the thing is too, I didn't really watch the older stuff until I got older. So I was watching like current things, so like 2002, 2003, and honestly, they have their place, but most horror movies made in that time frame are not very good. Yeah. But because a lot of them are just so focused on gore and so focused, there was the torture porn era.
Right. Well, and I think too.
And my wife is in the room and she's not happy. I said that. Look, I like Ghost Ship. You talk about how interject here. You might hear my son.
13 Ghosts
13
is
Ghosts.
one of my most favorite movies ever. It's the nostalgia. I don't know why, but I love that.
My son's got the mic now.
That's
Also, Ghost Ship. You cannot tell me that opening scene with the piano wire going across. I don't know if it's a piano wire, but the wire going across, slicing everyone.
Here's the thing
is
about
not
Ghost
one
Ship,
of the
though.
greatest kills of all time.
Link's got something to say.
Son, you don't eat the mic, buddy. It's only a couple inches from your mouth. You don't eat it. No.
The thing about Ghost Ship, though, is that's the best part of the movie. Yes, that scene's incredible.
That kill is the best.
That's
kill of the
it.
movie,
That's
for sure.
like the movie could end there. It could be a short film.
I don't know, man. The part when they're eating the maggots is pretty wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That too. That's how I feel about Poltergeist.
But hey, there are elements of that movie I still think work, but it is it's not good, and it's very much of its time.
Yeah.
Especially the part at the end where you see like that he's like the devil or whatever. Oh, spoilers for like a 20-year-old movie. But when you find out he's the devil, and then it just cuts to black, and it's just like this fucking blaring new metal song, and I'm like, wow, you could tell this movie was made in 2002 or whatever.
See, I love movies that are intentionally leaning into stuff like that. Not too much, but like just enough. But it's when
that's why I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. It's when a movie like they think they're doing something great, and you're like, well, it's just like cheesy, whatever, you know.
When they're trying to be good, and you're like,
yes, and you're like, it just didn't work for you.
Most recent example of that, I recommended it to you. I fucking loved Malignant.
It was so good
because it's so stupid.
So good.
It's what you talked about. It leans into
like
how stupid it is.
There's no way that would ever possibly happen. But you're like, that is the most brilliant twist I have ever.
And it's the most obvious one too.
It really, once you see it, you're like, oh, that makes sense.
Because when I was watching with Ashley, she kind of just called it right away. She was like, I bet it's the fucking tumor on the back of her head.
Yeah.
And it's so funny too, because her and I were watching it, because it was, and this was, what? Yeah, because it's called Malignant, so it's malignant tumor. I mean, come on. But I remember when that, because, and I didn't tell you, because I saw it before you did. I recommended it to you, and I didn't tell you because I'm like, I cannot, because if I tell you anything.
Right.
And let you be like, hey, this is definitely silly. This is more of a silly horror movie.
And I remember you saying that you were like, there's a twist ending that's really good.
Yeah.
And so I knew that something was going to happen, but I still didn't like figure it out until it happened. I was like, oh, that makes sense.
And it's still up. Yeah, but I just remember that came out because that was 2020, like last year, 2021.
Yeah.
Around September, so it was up on. It was day and date on HBO Max, and I was like, "Hey, there's a new horror movie out. Let's watch it. You know, it looks interesting. I've heard good things."
Yeah,
but I see. I'd heard good things, but I never. Everybody was so smart because everybody was kind of like in this like rare occasion where the internet was all on the same page. Where like nobody spoiled anything about it. Where they're just like, "You have to see it." That's all they could say.
I think it's because the twist was so good and so original, and like people were like, I cannot ruin this for anybody.
It's what's the name of it? It's a certain type of horror movie, and it's like a Spanish. I think it's a bordello movie or something like that. I think is the term.
Something like that.
And I had not known what those movies were, and I did not know what that was. So, and then if you go back and you look at it, that movie is really stupid the whole time.
It is. It really is.
I'll never forget.
But it works.
Yeah, but I'll never. Once you kind of figure out, like, oh, this is what they're going for.
Yeah.
Then you can lean into it. But like, even the beginning seemed off because it was almost like, because I remember watching her, I was like, Jesus, that took a turn. Like when he's like pushes her. She's pregnant, and she smashes her head on the wall. I'm like, fucking what? This seems so unnecessary.
Like this escalated.
And then but then I was like, okay. So the point of the movie was like, we're gonna take this to this level to then totally be okay with you watching this dude just get fucked up.
Right. See, and you have to do that in horror movies. You have to hate the person that's gonna die.
Because you have to root for someone to die. Right. Otherwise, it's just
exactly. Well, and also
gross.
I think it helps you feel better about the fact that you just watched someone get murdered.
Right. You don't want to feel dirty about it. Yeah. For
like,
sure.
If it's someone that's like angelic, and that's why the final girl is usually like the virginal, straight A student, like you love her, whatever, because you don't want to see that person die. You do want to see the asshole that's bullying everyone the whole time die.
Do you think that's also why you like Halloween so much? Is because
possibly
it started? It really like, well, you like if you go back and you think about what John Carpenter has done for the genre, it's kind of insane.
It's crazy.
And to think that was his first movie, and to think that it made the money it did.
Right.
It's just, it was the first movie to introduce the final girl concept. It was the first movie to kind of, it wasn't the first slasher movie.
No,
but
it set up all the rules, though.
Right, and it's the most, it's the modern slasher. And it's still, to this day, relevant, i.e., there's another fucking movie out for Halloween, you know?
I
That's
know.
like the
I'm
20th.
So
we have not seen it as of recording this.
Yeah, it came out last night, our time.
So we're recording this Halloween episode a couple weeks in advance. So I don't know how you're gonna feel about it, because based on Twitter, people fucking hate this movie.
I'm part of a horror movie group on Facebook, and people are tearing it to shreds. But these are people that are like die-hard fans.
I think the same people said the same thing about Halloween Kills, and I didn't hate Halloween Kills. I thought it was fine.
I remember people, talking shit on the one that came out in 2018, and I really enjoyed that one. Yeah. So I think as long as you can kind of separate it from the other movies, and I think that's always been people who don't like any of those movies, is that they can't separate it from the other ones.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, and I don't. I kind of understand some of the criticisms of Halloween Kills.
Yeah.
In a sense of that it does get real preachy, and it's kind of like, what do we do? Because look, I'm easy. For me, we talk about one of the things we wanted to talk about, like what makes a horror movie work for us, like what makes a good horror movie to us. And for me, I'm easy to please. Yeah. It's just, for me, it's just got to be a believable, like not even believable, because the kills have to be really realistic. The kills have to be really good. Yeah. And I should care one way or the other, whether I hate them or I love them, about someone dying in it. Yes. And I think really that's all you have to do. And if anybody's listening to this podcast knows, I'm not that hard to please as a movie watcher. I'm really not. And you could see things when they're shit. Yeah. But like, I don't know. I feel like horror is more fun because there's a lot more variety, and I think people take more chances in it. But that's really all it is make the characters likable enough. Yeah. So I can laugh when they're dead, or I can be sad. Right. But, yeah. I don't know. What makes a horror movie work for you? Like when you're watching, when you're like, this is good or this is shit.
Well, so the thing that I love about Halloween, and specifically the first one, because this kind of changes as the movies go, but in the first movie, he's just a dude. Like, he's an average size guy. He's not particularly strong. Like, he's just a guy.
He didn't even have a name. He was just the shape.
He was just the shape. Yeah. And you don't know why he's doing what he's doing. It's never explained, like, why he killed his sister in the beginning. It's never explained why he's going on this, like, murderous rampage now. And you don't know why he chose Lori. Like, he just saw her and was like, this is the girl that I am going to stalk until she is dead. And you don't know why. And that is a terrifying concept, that you could just be walking down the street and someone just decides they want to murder you.
That, and Ashley and I were talking to this in the car, because she's like, well, what are your movies? Do you have like a list of some horror movies? And I didn't really have, there's two that we will talk about, because it also says about me, because Ashley was talking about how she likes more spooky than like scary, and it's hard to define. But a movie that I think is really creepy and really effective with that idea of it could be anybody, and It Follows. Yes. It Follows fucking nails that paranoia. Yeah. And I told her, and I go, it's so simple. It's such a simple thing. I talk about the first Halloween. It's just a dude that kills people. There's really nothing else to it. And then you look at something like It Follows. Okay, so she hooks up with this dude, and he passes a curse on to her, which I think in and of itself is an interesting commentary. Yeah. That's another thing. We'll get to that too, about why I love horror so much too. But like, and then to have the repercussions of that, of people always following her and stalking her, and it's like, and the fact that they said it could be anybody, and they're not running. They're not running. No. They're walking. Exactly. And that's what makes it even worse. And that's what makes Jason scary. That's what makes Michael Myers scary, is that idea of just that imposing thing. And I think that's another thing that Carpenter just got, was just like, it's scary if he has all the time in the world to get to you. And he doesn't care what you do. He's just coming for you. Like, that's, and they they really nailed that with It Follows too.
Yeah.
Like there's a sequence when it's this big tall dude and he breaks
Oh
through
my
the
God,
fucking
yeah.
door, and like there's this whole sequence there that happens, and I'm like, I'm just eating it up. I'm like, oh my God, this is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And the fucking soundtrack to that movie is just
it's like just eerie enough.
eerie
like,
synth. I mean, if you put
Right.
synth in something, I'm probably gonna like it. That's just
Yeah.
one of my tent poles of what makes something that Jake will be into.
Right.
You know, you ever sit there and you like watch a movie, you know, and you're just like, well, what's the check boxes here that's make me gonna like it?
Right.
Oh, this person's in it. Okay, this director. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we got gore. Okay.
Right.
Jake likes it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just sitting there running a tally of all the things that I like. But yeah, It Follows is a really good horror movie
Mm-hmm.
of just that impeding doom.
Right. Well, and something that I thought about when I was watching it, I was like, okay, if you know that this thing is like really slow and it's going to follow you, get on a plane and fly somewhere, right? But it's still going to get you.
But it'll just get
It's
somebody
still,
else.
It's just going to take forever.
Yeah.
It's still going to get you. And I think that's, you know, it's like death comes for all of us, you know, kind of a parallel.
Yeah. Well, and what I like about it too, in a lot of horror, it is dealing with a lot of different themes, and I think, you know, that idea is okay. So she has sex with this guy, and then now she has this thing following her.
Right.
So it's like reputation. It's
Yeah.
you know, STD or
Mhm.
reputation. You know, like the metaphors are all there, and that's what I
Right.
love about it. And I remember reading about Alien.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember the name of him, but the artist talked about the terror of Alien is the sexuality of it, because it's about being raped, because the face hugger rapes you.
Right.
It literally ejaculates down your throat.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, that was the point. He goes,
Yeah.
it was about rape. It was about penetration. He goes, I
Mhm.
wanted to make men scream. So if I'm going to make men squeamish, I'm going to make
Yeah.
something penetrate. And like that always stuck out to me of like just things
That's
that you
so
see.
interesting.
Yeah.
I never thought of it like that before.
Yeah.
It's so interesting.
It's totally, and I've always thought that. And I was just, every time I watch an alien movie, I'm
Yeah.
like, it's kind of fucked up that this thing just kind of
Yeah.
jizzes in your mouth.
Yeah.
And then it shoots out of your chest. And then
Right.
what does it look like? It looks like a dick. Like
Yeah.
the alien looks like a dick.
Yeah.
Like it's and that's again why the genre is so good. And you could say that about comedy, and you could find deeper meaning in any movie.
Yeah.
But I think horror especially has always been, and that's what kills me about it too. Where there's like, don't put politics in my movie. I'm like, well then you don't
Right.
like horror movies, because
No.
first of all, every movie's political, and
Yes.
every
Mhm.
horror movie is political. There's always, because I found out, I didn't know this until I was reading about Hellraiser. I didn't know Clive Barker was gay.
I didn't know that.
And
It makes sense. I didn't know that.
because there was a big uproar because they gender swapped Pinhead for the remake,
Right.
but Pinhead was a female in the books. So like, no, we're just sticking to this. So he
Ah.
gender swapped it in the 80s.
Right.
My guess would be to get it made. I don't know.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, so there's a ton of horror creators that are gay or
Yeah.
bisexual. And
Mhm.
I mean, like, and that's another thing too, where you think about like Nightmare on Elm Street 2 is one of the gayest
Yes.
movies.
Yes.
And it's again penetration. It's
Right.
about it's just it's. I like it when they kind of play, and I think that horror lends itself to be more of the genre that can play in sexuality and
And I think it's very, very easy to kind of sneak an agenda into a horror movie, and cover it up. And sometimes, like, you know, like with Alien, like I didn't know that. Like sometimes you don't even see it, but you get it subconsciously, you know. And I'm not sure why horror is the genre that you can do that in. Maybe because there's like so much else that you're focusing on, whereas if you put something like that in a comedy movie, like they're making jokes about it, they have to reference it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think another layer to that could also be it is things that are inherently scary as well. So
Right.
you're already in that mindset, and then it opens the door for that.
Yeah.
But I feel really smart giving you the alien tidbit.
Thank you. You know, I've never seen Alien.
What?
I've never seen Alien. I know, like, I've
Even
seen a lot of
better.
scenes.
Even better, I've not seen Aliens. So
Okay.
I would lose a lot more street cred on this podcast because that's the James Cameron one. But
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I think it would be. I think you'd enjoy it. I think it's.
Yeah.
It's still. I think
I
it still
just,
holds
like,
up.
I it's not that I don't want to see it. I just haven't,
Yeah.
So maybe I'll make it a point this Halloween season.
Yeah,
Give it a go.
but yeah, there's just elements that you kind of. I again, I think the genre lends itself to kind of playing with that. Now, could you find? Do I know the deeper meaning of Friday the 13th? I don't know. I mean, if you want to go there, child neglect. That's really what it's about.
Friday the 13th is interesting though because it was made to basically be a replica of Halloween and to just kind of,
It came out like 3 years after the.
Yeah,
Halloween.
it was just meant to like make money
And
because they knew.
Sean S. Cunningham is very open about that.
Yes, and because wasn't he in like softcore porn at the time? Like or something
he
like that.
He was making like
so,
raunchy comedies around
and
that
that's
time.
why like if you watch Halloween, yes, like everyone's having sex, but John Carpenter has said like it's not that if you're a virgin you're not going to die, it's that the people that are having sex are like focused on that, so they're just not paying attention.
Yeah.
Whereas in Friday the 13th it's all about let's like have sex and gore, So,
but then it became that idea of like, well, is it a morality thing of like, don't have sex?
Exactly.
And I'm like, I guarantee that's not what these people are saying.
Well, and I think that's Friday the 13th really like solidified like, oh, that's the rule. Okay. Whereas like that wasn't John Carpenter's intention at all.
And I would say that when other people kind of did it, they kind of. See, my problem with that is like, okay, so you could probably say maybe child neglect is something under there.
Right.
Or you're distracted from other things and you shouldn't be doing the things you're doing. But then again, I'm also like, because I don't want to sympathize with him because Jason is killing people.
Right.
As sad as it is, he's still slaughtering people.
Right.
It's like when you see, we were talking about true crime earlier. How many times have you been listening to a podcast or watching a documentary and you're like, yeah, almost every time they've had a shitty childhood.
Yeah.
And it's led to that. And I understand on some level that you should be, upbringing is important. But at the same time, you kind of have to shed a little bit of that sympathy being like, they still killed people.
So I listen to My Favorite Murder and they say all the time, like, they'll go into the person's background and be like, yeah, he had head trauma and, his mom got married a bunch of times. And
sexually abused.
Yeah, they're sexually abused, whatever. And they'll always say, thousands of people get sexually abused. They don't murder people.
Right. Right.
So it's like, yes, that makes them more sympathetic, but it's not an excuse at all. You know what I mean? Like, they're still a shitty human being that did these shitty things.
Talking about the slashers and that also says a lot about Halloween. It says a lot about, because I'm sure that New Line has looked at how well Halloween is done, and they're like, well, we got to start. Because I'm pretty sure they've already talked about rebooting fucking Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street again.
Yeah.
And I think they're probably good. How has it been? Because that Friday the 13th movie in 2009 made a lot of money.
Yeah.
I'm still wondering how they have not made another one at this point.
I think it made a lot of money because people were excited to go see it. But didn't it get terrible reviews?
Oh, yeah.
And so I think that kind of like squashed anything moving forward. I didn't hate it, but
It is what it is.
Yeah.
But another one that I think about is Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah.
That
one needs, they need to stop remaking that.
Maybe they're kind of like that. We're like, well, we need to fucking hold on to these and not do that. But though I remember. This conversation is kind of just whatever. We're having a conversation. It's free flowing. We're all over. Yeah. Going back to, when I was exposed to horror at a young age, I think you shouldn't let your kids watch horror movies at a young age. Everybody in America. I'm pointing like there's a camera. However, I think that most things where you really hook on something is when you're younger. Because like for me, I still occasionally watch pro wrestling and follow pro wrestling, and that was something I watched as a kid.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the same with horror movies, where I can't remember if it was the 2003 Texas Chainsaw reboot, or if it was the prequel to the 2003 reboot, that I remember vividly watching that. And it was the 2003 remake, and I remember because Arlie Ermy was in it. Or Emery, or whatever his name is, R.I.P. He's in it as like the patriarch kind of character of that family, and he was so good at being such a shithead And then I remember just the shitty situation because he's the sheriff and he's like police brutality.
Yeah.
And then there you go. Didn't catch it as a kid because this movie came out, it was 2003, so I was 10 years old and I was watching this movie. So not probably the age I should have been watching it.
Right.
But I didn't pick up on that. But that was definitely like an ACAB thing of being like, look at this corrupt sheriff brutalizing where he like broke a bottle over a dude's head and shit. But I'll never forget watching that movie when they're going down the stairs and the dude has got his hand on the stairs and you can see his fingernails rip off.
Uh-huh.
And that as a kid always stuck out of my brain because that sucks. Because I've lost a couple fingernails before and it's not pretty and it's gross. And then when he puts them on the hook.
Yeah.
I always remember those two things because I was like, that scared the shit out of me. Because I was just like, oh my God. And then I couldn't even remember most of the kills from that movie, but I just remember that dude being stuck on the hook. I remember the dude getting his fingernails ripped on the wall.
For me,
and
it's
that stupid camera.
For me, it's the moment where I think it's right after he puts him on the hook, and I can't remember if he cut off his leg or his arm, but he takes a handful of salt and he
puts it on the wound.
Oh God, it gets me every single time.
But so I'm sitting there talking to you like this, and it was not a great experience for me. But for some reason, I wanted to watch more, and I still to this day can't explain that to you. Why like that definitely terrified me and traumatized me.
I think it goes back to that fascination. Like you just like
how far can I push it? How far can I go?
Yes. Well, and it's like a horrible, and it's part of the reason why I love cults and serial killers and learning about that kind of stuff. It's how can someone do this thing? Because I can't understand that. Like I can't understand someone like Jeffrey Dahmer or Ted Bundy, like, but you want to, like, your brain tells you need to figure it out.
Well, yeah, and that's I mean, that's why I did when we did Tinfoil Radio, as I had fun looking into those conspiracies and the cults and the shit bags that are on like Alex Jones types. And yeah, I think it is that fascination. But when you boil it down, I don't understand why human beings. We're the only species on this planet that I know of that it's like, I want to be scared. Let's go to a movie that scares me. Let's go to a haunted house because it's scary. Like we're so fucking weird. Like
I know. Well, and I think it's definitely like an adrenaline rush thing. And I think it's animals in the wild, like they obviously it's like a instinctual protective thing. Like they don't want to be scared because when you're scared, you could die. And if you see a horror movie, you're in a safe environment. If you're at a haunted house, you're in a safe environment, you know? So I think that's why we enjoy it, is because we know we're safe. Right. Because you could, like you were talking about, we could play with that curiosity. We could play in that world, but then not have to have any consequences. I mean, I think it's the same thing as like playing a violent video game. Yeah. And, shooting up a bunch of people in like GTA or something and just being like, well, I could do this because it's the game. There's no There's no consequences.
I'm not going to go outside and do this in real life.
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't know. I just, because, every time I think about that, it's like, why do I like horror movies? What drew to them? And then it was, maybe it was that like little bit of like, oh, I don't know. That's pretty crazy. That's pretty wild. And I was like, but I'm still interested. And maybe it's because my brother was always interested in it, so I always had new like DVDs and things to watch with horror movies. I don't know. But and that's the thing too, it's not a good movie. The Texas Chainsaw.
It's not. It is not a good movie.
It's not a good movie, but it's stuck in my brain.
Yeah. I want to use the word fun, but that's not.
I will say I will say the prequel I liked better because he oh God, she's in the Fast and the Furious movies. I can't think of black hair. It's gonna drive me crazy. Anyway, it's like Julianne something or Juliet, whatever. She's in it, and they ended it with a kill.
Jordana Brewster.
Yes. Good pull. And she's in the car. She's driving away, and you think she's gonna be the final girl. You think the movie's over, and then Leatherface sits up and sticks the chainsaw through her gut in the driver's seat and just rips and like blood everywhere, and then it cuts to credits. Movie's over. I was like, fuck yes. Like because that was like another moment of like, oh my God. Like, I don't know. Something about
Yeah.
gore really excites
Well,
me.
and also I think
About a
that's I have not seen that one, so thanks for spoiling the end.
movie.
No, it's cool.
Sorry, I
It's
spoiled
cool.
the movie that came out in 2006.
I never had a desire to watch that one. I think like with something like that, it's almost more fascinating and interesting and exciting because you're expecting that she's going to get away because that's what happens.
And that's why they did it that way, because they're like,
Yeah.
well, it's a prequel, so fuck it. Let's just kill this
Yeah.
person. Why does it matter?
So, and I love being surprised in horror. Like,
Yeah.
again, it's the same reason I loved Malignant, because, like, you don't really see it coming until you're like, oh, okay, like, that's obviously what
Yeah.
it was. But,
Man,
like,
that third act when she just fucking murders that police defender. Oh, my God. And nobody shot her? That's what kills me the most about it, is nobody capped her in the head. Come on now.
well, because then the movie would have been over, Jake.
Yeah, I know. Then we would have had that ridiculous ending where she's inside her own mind.
Yeah.
God, that movie's amazing. Yeah. Well, and so let me ask you this: what do you like in horror? Because for me, I feel like I'm kind of in a similar boat as Ashley, where I like a lot of gore, but I want the gore to be used almost comedically, almost like over the top, ridiculous. Because like we were talking about, if you don't have a little bit of tongue in cheek in there, it just seems gratuitous.
Well, and it's kind
like
of
the Human Centipede movies.
yeah.
Oof.
Talk
about gratuitous.
I've only ever seen the second one, and it was so, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
It done very well.
Yeah, but
Done very well.
But so yeah, I like a little bit more gore. I like a little bit more humor in it. But when I'm going for a horror movie, I like the kills. I like ridiculousness.
Yeah, I'm also very easy to please in horror. I'm kind of the same way with gore. Like, it's the reason why I don't really like Eli Roth movies, is because he's doing gore for the sake of doing gore. You know what I mean? And I think like there is an audience for that. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just not that audience.
That's another movie, Hostel. I saw that at a young age. Oh my!
I
gosh.
will never watch it. I've seen scenes from it because I watch a lot of like behind the scenes documentaries.
Sure.
And like on Shudder right now they've got the 101 I think best horror movie moments of all time or something like that.
I've seen that.
And so like
Shudder,
I've
where were
seen
you?
scenes from
Sponsor
that.
this episode. No.
Yeah, Shudder.
Us and our 10 listeners.
Yeah. Do you guys have Shudder? You should.
I do not have Shudder.
You should get Shudder. It's like $5 a month. It's nice. But
I know, I hear about it all the time on Dead Meat and
yeah.
good YouTube channel. Check it out. I'm sure you
That's
already know.
I do.
Not you. I was saying.
I
was saying
the people.
audience. Yeah.
Yes.
All 10 listeners.
But well, because like I really enjoy the Saw films. Because again, I think that as the movies went on, it was kind of gore for the sake of gore.
And they got super soap opera. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Yes, they sure did.
I
But
think
like
I've
that
seen-
first one, it's like
I have not seen Jigsaw, and I have not. Yeah, I've seen every Saw movie.
I saw the one that came out.
Spiral.
No, not the one that came out before that.
Jigsaw. It was just
Was
called.
it Jigsaw?
It was
Yeah.
called Jigsaw.
So I saw that one. I did enjoy that one. But like the first one, there are some like really horrible kills, but it's nothing super duper over the top.
It's one room. The whole movie is one room.
Yeah. Well, like there's flashbacks and then like
Yeah,
they go to his, but
yeah,
for the most part,
it's one trap.
and like I think like the worst part of that is when it flashes back to what's her name, Amanda, and she has to kill the guy and gut him and like go through his intestines.
She's got the bear trap in her head.
Yes, and you see her going through the intestines. Even then, it's not too over the top. Like it's horrifying, but like and it was really the story that drove that movie.
Yeah.
And then these small moments of like, oh my God, that guy is cutting off his leg. But then you get to like, is it the one that's the final chapter? But then they made 2 more movies after that, where
Yeah.
is that the one that Chester Bennington is in?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah, because it was.
And like,
You saw the final chapter in 3D.
yeah.
And then I don't know, like 5 or 6 years later, Jigsaw came out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, but there's like, I can't remember if it's the
never
final chapter
over.
or
That's
the one.
the funny thing about it. It's
Exactly,
never over.
because they can make a lot of money and they know it.
You know
and-
that they call this Halloween Ends, and I guarantee you in another 10 years there'll
Yeah.
be another Halloween movie.
Absolutely. Well, it's like the end of this trilogy.
Yeah,
so
this is
that I'm cool with. But shoot, what was I saying? But yeah,
It's one room. It's a lot more.
It's story oriented, and
you could tell they didn't have a budget, so it was playing with the fact that they didn't have a budget. So Jordan, like when Jordan, I'm sure you've seen the interview when Jordan Peele was doing the interview for Nope, and he was talking about monsters, and he was like in movies, and he goes, it's always better when you don't show the monster until the very end, because your mind is going to make such a better monster that you're going to see on screen. And I think that's what makes Saw. It's the beauty of that first Saw movie, and I will fight anybody on those first 3 Saw movies, because I really and I have a Blu-ray box set of just the first 3, because I'm like, fuck all the other ones at this point. I think the guy, like, Saw 4 was making like a weird social commentary about healthcare. Yeah. And like it just got super ridiculous because, well, Tobin, I can't think of his last name. Yes. The dude who plays Jigsaw, his character dies in the 3rd movie, but he keeps showing up in every other movie in flashbacks because there's some other person that happened to be the fall. Right. But I feel like Saw 3 ended so well for that, and it could have just been a trilogy, but I get it. It made money.
And I think it was supposed to be, but then, like you said.
Yeah, I'll argue with anybody on those first 3 movies because I really enjoyed those first 3 movies.
The 3rd one's my favorite.
Yeah, the 3rd one's great. But the first one, I think the big scare about it, or the big tension that is, someone's going to cut off their foot. Yeah. You just don't know when. Exactly. And that's the beauty.
You don't know when, you don't know how.
And then the reveal that he kicked off the key in the bathtub, I was like, fuck it.
That was terrifying. That's a terrifying concept, that like the entire time he's been screwed. Like,
but he didn't know he was in the water.
It's just so brilliant.
Well, and then you go to the second one, and the second one, when the woman that's like his disciple, when she gets thrown in that fucking pit of syringes. Oh my God!
I watched a behind the scenes thing the other day about how they did that, and it's fascinating. It's basically they took a bunch of syringes and then they took the needles out and replaced it with like a not a wire,
like sugar
but
glass,
like
or
no, it was like a tubing of like rubber tubing of some kind. So it was all safe. But it took. I think they said it took like 8 people 4 days of that was all they did was just removing the needles and then putting them in, and they just filled this pit. And like when you know that, you're like, oh, that's really really cool. But when you're watching it, you're like, she is in a pit of needles.
I mean, how many people have would see that and freak out, because there's so many people that are scared of needles. Like, needles don't bother me, but like just the thought of falling into a pit of needles is a little bit different.
Somebody pushes you into,
and you go face first
onto needles. That's a terrifying thought.
It'd be different if she was getting pushed backwards and she doesn't see it, but she's going face first. Yeah. Oof.
And then she gets up and she's got them all on her. Like, it's
you know what? I don't think I remember most of the traps of that movie, but I remember that. I remember that scene.
Yeah. Well, because I think it's a very relatable feeling, because we all know what it's like to be stuck by a needle. And you could imagine what it would be like
to fall into
be stuck by a bunch of needles, you know?
Oh, yeah, because Saw 2 is a group.
Yes, that's where they're all in the house and they're breathing in the toxin.
Right. And then the third one, it's all about the end of it. They cut out they cut open his skull, and he had a cassette tape encased in wax, so that's how it was able to stay in his skull. And I was like, yeah, it's so weird. But I just remember those. I do remember those, and I feel like those movies definitely got into gore for gore's sake. Yeah. And they really, really got into just gratuitous. I remember some of them were cool. I'm not going to say they weren't. Like, I remember, there was one where, I can't remember if it was Saw 4, maybe, where they had a merry-go-round, but it was a shotgun. Yes. And you spun the merry-go-round, and whoever landed on it would get fucking blasted. I was like, Jesus, that's a horrifying concept.
That's, something I've always found.
Yeah, it was the fourth one, because it had to do with the insurance guy.
Yeah. Something I've always found fascinating about the Saw franchise was, and this I think was when the 5th one came out, so I don't know if the later movies adhered to this rule, but every single kill that you see is a documented way that someone has killed another person. Like, they're not making any of this stuff up. Like, people have killed people this way. And I think that that's so interesting, because then you start thinking about it and you're like, this happened to a person. Like someone in a writer's room didn't create it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because I feel like most of the time you find out that real life is probably scarier than a movie.
Yeah.
It's
It absolutely is.
I mean, you look at what happened, and they do it in the Netflix show, and I'm based on what happened there. I mean, yes, I know the Netflix show does fictionalization of it because it's a show.
Right.
But with the Dahmer stuff, and it's you hear about, they could have prevented this stuff, and people just didn't care.
Yes.
So yeah, it makes sense that deaths like that would happen because people are just.
Well, and also, I think in the real world, people don't want to believe that bad things like that happen. You know, and so that's why a lot of that kind of stuff happens.
Yeah, and that also had a different circumstance of given the time.
Absolutely.
Where they were, you know, homosexuality was.
Yeah.
Oh, they're doing weird gay stuff.
Right.
So
right.
It's like, well, no, he's eating people. So.
Yeah, he's trying to make a zombie.
Yeah, I remember reading about that where he put battery acid in someone's head.
Yep. Because he wanted a constant companion.
Yeah, that's another. You know what else you find out too? With a lot of these guys too, if they would just be honest with themselves and say that they're gay, they probably wouldn't have killed people like John Wayne Gacy and Dahmer. And
which, like, I mean, who's to say? But it probably.
Not saying every.
It probably would have been
gay,
better. No. No. But yeah, it might have been better if they had like a different outlet to deal with that. You know. Who knows? I mean,
maybe
these people
if they
would
have just watched some horror movies.
There you go.
Yeah. So let's get into this. You and I need to talk about Evil Dead because we both love Evil Dead.
Fun fact: it's the 41st anniversary today of the Evil Dead. When we're recording this,
look at that. And here's how committed I am to Evil Dead. I married a woman named Ashley, so now she's Ashley Williams.
Yeah.
So who's really the fan here?
We need to get her a chainsaw arm.
Ashley, that's a great idea. Lincoln could be the Necronomicon.
Oh my God, that would be the cute.
Let me traumatize my child by turning him into this book made of flesh.
Just put him in a cute little costume. He'll be happy.
No, we can't. We already got his costume.
Yeah.
He's Thor.
He's Thor.
It's actually a pretty cool costume.
Oh my God.
I joked with her that I should be Mjolnir or Stormbreaker. Both of us should be the Hammers. Is what I was trying to get at.
And then he's just my God.
But how do you get
right? And then
I'm not like you, Grace. I don't craft. I'm not a crafty person.
You should have hit me up. I could have helped you out.
Well, you know what's funny is I expect when we do one of these again, I expect a costume episode. I'm just gonna let you riff because.
Please do. I've made so many of my own costumes. I go to Comic-Cons.
I still think
I'm
probably my best costume was 2 years ago when I dressed up as a Karen.
That was oh my God! I remember you walked in the room, and I was just like, "This is perfect."
I get why, and I was wearing leggings. I'm like, I get it, man. This shit's comfy.
And what did your shirt say? Something about wine.
It was like coffee, wine.
Yeah, and you had like a latte.
Yeah, it was a cup with it said Karen on it.
It was so brilliant, like.
It was Ashley's idea.
It's so simple. Like, how simple is that?
That's what it was because it was a last minute thing because we didn't know with COVID and everything, and it was only like how many people we were gonna have and. Yeah. Just a small get together. Anyway, Evil Dead.
Yes.
Evil Dead is another example of something that got to me young. Mm-hmm. That I'm not saying I wouldn't like it when I'm older, but it's so weird how much impact something like that has. Yeah. For me, like Evil Dead and I was talking to Ashley in the car. If I were to say like my top 2 favorite horror movies, it would probably be Evil Dead 2 and Shaun of the Dead. And so that again goes to what I like in a horror movie, the more comedic thing. Right. And it's funny because I saw Evil Dead 2 first. Before I saw The Evil Dead.
That's a franchise too where I don't think that it matters what order you watch it in.
And then I watched Army of Darkness. So to go to those and then go back to the first one, it's a totally different thing. But I mean, I could talk for hours about this, but I don't know. If I were to rank the 3 of them, it would be Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness, Evil Dead 1, and that's only because I have to put it somewhere. Now, if we were including the remake, I don't know. See, I really, really liked that remake.
The remake is I do too, but the remake is like a totally different vibe than the original.
Because
you know what I mean?
I think we've been. For me, I think we were so used to seeing Bruce Campbell,
right,
and the more silliness of it.
Yeah.
Because this is definitely harking like that remake was very much like supposed to be like the first movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So which one did you see the first movie first? Did you actually watch them?
I watched them in order. Yeah. So I knew of the Evil Dead. Well, actually, I saw the remake first. Yeah. Well, because like I knew of the Evil Dead and I knew Bruce Campbell and I like knew the story. And I actually didn't watch the original 3 until like 3 years ago, and instantly fell in love with the first one because of how like kitschy and plucky it is, because like these people were they were trying to make a movie. They were trying to make obviously like they weren't trying to make a great movie because they didn't have the budget for it, but like they were trying to make a good
fun film. Sam Raimi didn't even like horror movies.
Yeah.
And he really he's still alive. He really loves like, Three Stooges and stuff like that when he was growing up, and you can definitely see that inspiration in the second movie. But yeah, that first movie, they were just trying to get a movie made, and they were just trying to get a movie done to have on a resume, and that's when somebody suggested, hey, why don't you make a horror movie? Because it's true. Horror movies always make money. You can make them on a very small budget and make a lot of money. I mean, fucking Blair Witch, Paranormal Activity, shoestring budget, student films, and they made like the biggest franchises ever. You know? Some of the biggest ones. But I remember that, and then the more I read about it, and the more of like the fact that they made it for $379,000.
Yes.
The fact that they shot real ammo at sometimes when they were shooting the gun, I was like, that's really fucking unsafe.
Yeah.
But like just the innovations they made with the strapping the camera onto the bike. And just running
with it, and it works because like how shaky it is and unsteady. You're like, oh, there is something evil running through the woods, when really it was just
the concept,
what they could do.
Even when I was watching it in high school and watching it with my friends, and look, that movie was made in 1979. And it's made for a cheap budget. It doesn't look super great sometimes.
No, yeah.
But that camera shot is so effective. And the fact that it's a franchise mainstay is because it works. Because you're right. It is, and that's what the genius of Sam Raimi. And I would say Sam Raimi's probably my one of, if not my favorite director. I've liked pretty much every movie he's made. And the reason I do it is because he makes the camera a character.
Yes.
And that's what makes Evil Dead so effective, where he's like, I can do what can I do with this camera and beat up my friend and beat up Bruce Campbell, because that's really what these movies are. But like, there's still some shots like that shot, and the fact that they made that where they're like, let's just duct tape this fucking thing to a board on a bike and just drive.
See what happens.
Or like Sam Raimi's car being in all of his movies, where they literally broke through the window of the car with the camera, and it literally is the camera coming at you. And like the movie is it's like it's pulling you in to like force you to watch it. Right. And it's kind of crazy. Like that one scene where she stabs the one gets stabbed in the ankle.
Yes. And
that is an extreme for a small budget to have that effective of a practical effect.
That was a great practical effect.
Again, watching this in high school like 10, 12 years ago, and I'm just like,
yeah.
Like it was a really good like plasty. Like it was really, really good. And then I love how even in the first movie, it just gets madcap. It just was like, let's just go insane.
Yeah.
Where he kills her and there's like milk and green goo and shit coming out because they were trying to get the
claymation
sensors
stuff and
they're
like oh my god,
so good,
brilliant.
And then that shitty necklace that they bring up in the second movie. I'm glad that Sam Raimi admitted that was wrong to have the tree rape scene, and he regretted it.
Yeah, but then they did it in the remake, and it's like worse.
Oh my god, it's so much worse than the remake.
So much worse.
I mean, does it surprise you that they put that in the movie? The same people that made Don't Breathe.
No.
They made the blind dude a rapist.
That movie is great. that.
That movie is so good, and then it undermines itself.
It does
so hard in that third act.
It sure does.
I'm like,
That's
I see. Personally, I thought the twist was great because I'm like, oh, now I can hate this guy.
yes.
But at the
Yes.
same time, I was just
You're
like,
like, I don't like this though.
I remember I saw it in theaters with Ashley. I'm like, what the fuck is this shit? Like,
yeah, that fucking turkey baster, man.
and then they made a second movie where they tried to make it seem like he's not
Yeah.
that bad of a guy. And then
See, I didn't see the second one because I knew it wasn't going to be as good as the first one.
why make a sequel where we follow the rapist? I just don't understand
Yeah.
it. I don't.
Because we need to understand him, Jake.
I guess it sucks your daughter died.
Yeah, but
But
that
back to
doesn't
what
mean
you-
that you can do that.
Back to what you were
You can't
saying about that
imprison
podcast.
a young girl.
A lot of people die.
Yeah.
A lot of people lose loved ones.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you become a rapist.
They don't imprison women in their basements and impregnate them.
Put your jizz in a turkey
That's
base.
oh my god.
Didn't he kill that woman? Like
He didn't. I
she
think
killed herself. I think. Or
no. I think they accidentally shot
yes,
her.
they shot her.
Yeah, and then he's upset. He's like,
Well, then I was like, okay, it's bad enough you make this woman,
Right.
make this character be strapped and all, and then you just fucking shoot her. Like, come
Right.
on.
But here's my thing about that. He says that he's going to let her go after she has the baby. There's no way he's going to let her go because then
is he
he's going to go
deliver
to
it?
jail.
Is he going to deliver
He's going to
it?
deliver it himself. I see it. Like he's down and it's like a doula birth. Like,
Yeah, and then she's not going to fucking go to the police and be like, this man
Yes.
kept me in a basement and impregnated me.
that's because he would go to jail and she would have custody of that baby or give it up or whatever. And he's got to know that. Like, so it just didn't make
Well,
sense.
you know who
to me.
doesn't have problematic characters? Evil Dead.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Let's go back. Let's get back.
So, yeah, that first movie, it was very,
Yes.
very impactful in the sense of like, okay, I see what they were trying to do.
Well, and
And-
it was like a fresh
Yeah.
breath of air to the genre, you know, because you hadn't necessarily
Yeah.
seen that kind of stuff before.
And as Raimi also said he wanted to make something gruesome. He wanted to make
And he sure did.
something that's like, But, and here I'm going to tie it to another movie to just shit on it. At least Raimi knew that, yes, I can make a great gruesome movie, but it still can be a palatable movie. I'm looking
Yeah.
at you, Tony Six, whoever the hell your name is, who made the Human Centipede movies, which I hate myself that I watched 2 of them. I didn't even bother with the third one because I heard the third one has a lot of like prison rape, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't need. I'm sorry, man, but I'm one of those people who's like,
yeah.
when you put rape in a movie, it's like I don't want to see that. I do not want to be a part of that.
No.
It's just and then you're telling me there's going to be like gratuitous amounts of that. I'm like, why?
Yeah.
And
Like, what is the point?
But
Yeah.
another, how I'm relating back to that is he said he wanted to make a movie or a couple of movies in this case that disgusted people. I'm like, fine,
Yeah.
but what's the point? Like, what are you
Exactly.
getting out of? What are you getting out of that?
Have you ever seen a Serbian film?
No.
Do not, because that's it's the
gruesome?
point. It's very disturbing. It's I will tell you, I watched it when I was at the Brownville Theater, and we were all living together. It was a bunch of actors, and we had a day where we were watching disturbing movies, and so we watched Human Centipede 2, and I think maybe we watched A Clockwork Orange, and then we watched a Serbian film.
God, Clockwork Orange.
Clockwork Orange is its own. Oh my god! But
Another movie that gets totally like I don't want to watch this. 'Cause there's one scene and I'm like, well, I don't want to watch this anymore.
I know it is good though.
Yeah.
It is a good movie.
Yeah,
It's just
and
so
and
hard to watch.
Yeah.
But so a Serbian film basically was made to shock as many people as possible, and it's been banned in a bunch of countries. And we were watching it, and
What was the name of it?
a Serbian film.
Oh, it's just called.
It's called a Serbian
I
film.
kept thinking you keep like.
It's
what's
have
wrong
you
with-
have you ever seen a Serbian
That's
film?
what I was like. Are you saying all Serbian?
No.
people? Like-
It's called a Serbian film,
yeah.
and I think it came out in like 2011-ish, somewhere around there.
Okay.
And it's so disturbing, and 3 of us physically got ill. Like we had to leave because we physically got ill, and there's rape in it, and there's incest in it, and there just a whole bunch
Yeah.
of horrible stuff. And you're like, how did someone come up with this? Like, you have to be a depraved individual, you know? And so that kind of stuff, not here for it. Not here for it at all.
See, and I understand using the genre to like go to a darker place and
Yes.
go to and I think that's important. You know, when I think about when I get really anxious and I'm getting in my own head and getting existential and all this other stuff, I try and steer into the, like what I refer to it as is like steering into the darkness. You know, just like you don't want to do that, but you need to do that to kind of get to the other side. And I think that's what horror always does.
Right.
And I think, as funny as they are, I think those Evil Dead movies are a great example of Ash getting stuck with plates and plates of shit that he's got to eat before he can survive, and he always gets out of it. And I think that's what's cool about it, especially the second movie. Yeah. And I love the fact that the second movie's like, well, I guess the first movie kind of existed, maybe, I don't know, but we're going to go back to the same exact cabin anyway.
Right.
Because we don't know what and it's just one of those movies where, like, I don't care. Yeah. I watch Evil Dead 2 and I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Well, because at that point, the movie knew what it was.
Yes.
It knew what it was. And that's why it's so fun.
That's why the second movie is my favorite, because that is when they knew what they wanted to do.
And it's absurd and it's ridiculous, but it works well.
Here's another thing, too. And another reason I like it. And you can say this about any movie, any form of art. It's really not for everybody, because I remember.
It's not.
There was one time I was watching it, and I remember it was like on Sci-Fi or something. It was just on TV. And I'm watching it, and we were with Ashley's parents, and her dad was like, I think we got to the part, which credit to him, I guess. We got to the part after he chops her head off with the shovel, and we've gotten to the part where her corpse is reanimated and dancing.
Yeah.
And then she throws the head, and it lands in his lap. That's where her dad tapped out. And I'm like, buddy, there's so much more to this movie.
I was gonna say,
but even that is funny. That is such a smart idea and it's the claymation of it shows its age, but it also shows its time, and it's a lot more fun with it. And to see that he kills his girlfriend and then her coming out of her corpse and then doing a whole like show dance number,
right?
And then bloop, like, and again, it's a cartoon. These movies are cartoons.
Yeah,
because like, and then to have the head. But then to follow that up with, and now when I talk about it, it's just a roller coaster. It's just boom, banger after banger after banger. Because
like it never stops.
It's the head thing, and then it leads to the furniture laughing at him.
Yes. I forgot about that.
Oh my god, it's so good. Like when the weird looking deer. Like
yes.
And then he starts laughing because he's going insane, and then he shoots, and then the walls start to bleed. Then it fills the whole cabin with blood and goo. Yeah. And then it stops, and then I think that's when his hand gets possessed.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. When you describe this movie out loud,
it's crazy.
It just goes.
Well, and I think that's kind of what I was talking about.
That's what works for a horror movie.
Yeah,
know?
Absolutely. It's kind of what I was talking about earlier about how when a movie like that knows what it is, and it knows that it's ridiculous, and it knows that it's being cliche, it just works.
And it moves at a clip, because it is 87 minutes. And it's
and it never stops.
Next thing. Because then it's him fighting his hand, where he actually did that, where he actually flipped himself.
Yeah.
Busts all those plates, has the super graphics, like cutting his hand off, there's blood all over his face and the camera and everything.
Which, like, that scene, hats off to Bruce Campbell. Like, that had to be so hard.
Army of Darkness, when it's the little tiny ashes.
Yeah.
That was, I heard how that was described, and it was the most elaborate choreographed scene, and I gained so much respect for him as an actor, because he had to be like, the way that they did it was, he goes, I was having to fight myself, essentially. So he would like go to one. I would have to hit my mark perfectly on time when they told me to hit it. Then I'd have to do it, act that part, hit my next mark on time. And if I fuck up that timing in any way, we got to restart the whole take. Yeah. And they had to do it like all in one, almost like as if it were a single shot or something like that. And it was super elaborate. And yeah, this movie made me fall in love with him, because this is Sam Raimi abusing his friend for an hour and a half.
Right.
And it's amazing.
And you know, part of him was like, how can I mess with Bruce? Like, how can I,
Well, there's parts when I've rewatched it, and then I remember, oh shit, this is in this. Like, yeah. Because I remember so vividly of the hand, cutting off the hand, putting the trash can, and then the book that is in the trash can is A Farewell to Arms by Stubby Keats. And I was like, good Lord. And then the hand running up the wall and flipping him off.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's great.
But then I totally forgot that all those people show up later.
Right.
I'm like, oh, that makes sense because we got to have a little bit more of a body count. So I was like, oh, it makes sense if we get some.
Right.
But yeah, that movie, and then we got the fucking Bertha thing at the end, where it's the big fat lady that was in the basement the whole time, and then her head, like, it's so good. That movie's incredible.
I love. Is it? He opens the front door and just the blood rushes at him. Like, that's the second one,
the
right?
dude gets thrown in the cellar. Right, is that what you're thinking of? And then they shoot the geysers of blood out of the cellar.
That might be it. Yeah.
That's another thing too. What I love about these movies, where there's an amount of blood that would never be in a human body.
Right.
Like, there's not that
still,
much blood.
Yeah, right.
I mean, yeah, we have 8, was it pints or whatever, or 8 quarts?
Right.
But like, no, because pints, that's not very much. But yeah, either
You're
way.
not going to get a fountain.
Yeah, like a full-on geyser of blood. And then I love how they ran out of blood, so they used different material. Mm-hmm. And then they also did that so they could try and get around censors, and they never did. It was still NC-17. So then they had to make a new company, a fake company, to be the distributor so they can try and get an R rating. And it's like, and you look back at that movie and it's like this, I mean,
that scared the shit out of me.
There's somebody that walked by the sliding glass door.
Ooh, that's
all the horror movies, it's scary.
It's got our adrenaline up.
Yeah.
All right.
But Army of Darkness, I think, is great too. I don't know. I mean, we've gone over an hour, so I don't know how much longer we're gonna go. But is there any?
It's the Spooktacular, Jake.
That's true. We can go. It's on my show. I can do it as long as I want. But yeah, the Evil Dead 2 and Ashley. Ashley and I were talking, and I was like, if you were to say what's your favorite movie, and I always said that like Anchorman is probably my favorite movie of all time. And she goes, I don't buy it. So then I was like, wait a minute, how do you say that you don't buy what I'm saying? She goes, 'cause you don't talk about that movie nearly as much as you talk about something like Evil. And I said, well, maybe Evil Dead 2. And she's like, you've talked about Evil Dead 2 way more than Anchorman.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, that's fair. And then I've gone out of my way. I've got all 4 movies, because I have the remake too. Did you ever watch Ash vs. Evil Dead?
I've seen, I think, the first,
because I have the first
season or two.
But
yeah, I haven't seen the whole thing. But yeah.
And that doubles down on what made it work, what made things work. And it's funny because they had to make it without referencing Army of Darkness.
Yeah.
Because Universal has the rights to that.
Right.
So they had to pretty much say that movie didn't exist, which is fine. I mean, you could do that because the movie is so different than all the other ones, where it's like, this was clearly the movie that Sam wanted to always make, was Army of Darkness, which is still great, and it's still, but it's its own thing. It still holds on a little bit of those horror elements, but it's more of like Jason and the Argonauts, like
absolutely
classic adventure.
Well, and I was talking to Jimmy about this the other day because he loves Army of Darkness, like absolutely loves it.
It's amazing.
And I said, as the third movie in the franchise, I'm not a fan of it. And it's the same thing that people have a problem with the third Halloween film because it's a standalone film.
Which is what it was supposed to be.
Which is what it was always meant to be.
Yeah.
Now, if John Carpenter had just made Season of the Witch, I think it would have been a huge hit. And if Sam Raimi had made just Army of Darkness, I think I probably would have enjoyed it more. But it's just not, because, you know, you want to see the Evil Dead. You want to see him in the cabin. You want to see the same thing over again.
We get Deadites in it, but it's mostly
it's very
skeletons.
Yeah.
And you still have Evil Ash, and you still have those like Evil Dead moments, but the second movie I think is really what they were trying to go with.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see what they do with Evil Dead Rises. I don't know if you know about that.
I don't.
That's a new one.
When is that coming out?
It was supposed to come out.
Maybe I did hear about it.
It's supposed to come out this year, and then it was supposed to just be on HBO Max, but now it got delayed because they're going to put it in theaters. So that's exciting.
Bruce Campbell coming back?
No, I think I don't think Jane Lynch, is it Jane Lynch? Yeah, she was
Levi?
Jane Levi. Jane Lynch is a comedic actor, yeah.
So is
Jane Levy? It's Jane Levy because she had she was the one in the remake. She was Mia. I don't think she's in it either. I think it's going to just kind of be a brand new, like a requel, a reboot sequel.
Okay, I'll give it a try.
But what they're doing to make it different is it's going to be in a high rise. That's why it's called Evil Dead Rises. Is it's going to be like the way that I heard the pitch was like The Raid, but Deadites. So she's got to like get out of this building filled with them, which is like, okay,
I'll watch it.
that's how you do something new.
Yes, because
That's how you do something interesting. Because
yeah,
you can only do a
it's
cabin.
very,
in the
very similar. Yeah.
Cabin in the Woods.
Although, how many Cabin in the Woods movies are there?
You talked about how influential the series was on horror. I mean, they made a whole movie called The Cabin in the Woods.
Yes.
Making fun of horror tropes.
Yes. Oh,
which
that
is a
movie something
fantastic
special.
movie.
Oh, hello.
I already liked that movie, and then the third act where everything gets out made it even better. And I was like, how do you top this movie?
My favorite part of that movie is the guy that has not stopped talking about how he wants to see a mermaid gets killed by a mermaid. It's brilliant.
The fact that they're taking prop bets on that shit.
Yeah.
So
And like they're all celebrating and the girl's dying in the background.
the plot twist was the weed was too good and he was too perceptive. Yeah. Well, you talked a lot about movies that I really enjoyed, but is there any? Also,
yes,
like we were talking about, you know this because you're a Halloween fanatic.
Yes, accurate.
Well, I mean, it is. I mean, fan fanatic also.
Yeah.
Yeah. John Carpenter always wanted to be an anthology. And they forced him to make Halloween 2.
He did not want Halloween 2 to be a Michael Myers movie, but they said it had to be, and so
which is why he made that stupid plot twist that it's his sister.
What I heard, I don't know how true this is, but that he grabbed a 6-pack of beer and he wrote Halloween 2 in one night, and that's why it's so. I don't want to say bad because I don't think it's bad, but it's not where it should have gone. Because he wanted it to be 3 standalone movies, and that's why Season of the Witch is completely different.
Which is baffling, because they're like, okay, well, we'll kill Michael for sure. He's dead. Done.
Right.
And then we'll do the anthology thing. And then they abandoned that because they're like, well, nobody liked it, so now we're going to go back to Michael Myers.
People hated it. Like, and it's a great movie.
It's so 80s, like
it's
horror.
Very 80s movie. It's, yeah.
Yeah.
We were watching it last night, and it's like so
and the ending, and we talked about the Chainsaw prequel. And if a horror movie gives me an ending that sucks, like where it's bad for people, I enjoy it because that's kind of what I want out of a horror movie. Yeah. Is just to have the balls to be like, there's no happy endings. This is a horror movie, and then they're like, the kids, the TV.
Well, and at the same time, you don't know what happens because he's just screaming, "Stop it!" and then it cuts. But you're pretty sure. But the guy that played What's-His-Face has come out and been like, I like to think that he stopped it and he saved all the kids, whatever. And I'm like, okay, you think that.
Well, I'm amazed that we've gone over an hour and I've not brought up The Thing, because The Thing is my favorite Carpenter movie.
I've only seen parts of The Thing.
Oh
I'm shocked. I'm shocked I haven't. That's because I love Kurt Russell. I've seen a lot of it though, and I know all about it.
Ashley will tell you I am like the head of the Kurt Russell fan club here because
he's beautiful in that movie.
Beautiful man. You think, how can Kurt Russell be sexier? And he grew a beard.
Yeah,
and there you go.
And he's got the hair, and it's like feathered.
He's a beautiful man.
He's a beautiful man.
But I've seen a lot of Kurt Russell movies, and I love the fact that he partnered up with Carpenter for Escape from New York and L.A. and The Thing. The Thing to this day is still an amazing achievement in cinema because those practical effects
are so good. When the head like grows the spider legs, like it's brilliant.
Because it's just like Evil Dead 2, where I think that a scene is done and we're gonna get a breather here, and then a fucking spider head shows up, and I'm like, what? And then the part where the dude gets his arms ripped off, but when he tries to defibrillate, that was an amputee.
Really? That makes sense.
That's why the effect looks really good where he has no arms, because it's an amputee. They just put like the way that it's shot, you don't really see his face.
Yeah.
And it was just an amputee flopping.
I love when they do that. Like, there's a really great scene in is it Return of the Living Dead, where it's like the spoof 80s movie, but there's a zombie. I did
not like that movie. A lot of people like that movie. I am not a fan.
I loved that movie.
I'd have to rewatch it.
It's so absurd. But there's a scene where this zombie has like no arms and like one leg, and he's running at the cop, and that was an amputee. Like, and so I love that because it's a practical effect,
and
like,
it's cheap. You just have somebody that's an amputee be on your movie.
And then how lovely for those people.
Yeah, give them some work.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But the thing I love about The Thing the most, the thing that I like about The Thing, is like you were talking about with Halloween 3. It's an ambiguous ending.
Yes.
I'm going to spoil it since somehow you have not seen this movie.
That's
But
the same guy.
He freaks me out every time. It's just this dude walking
He's
by
just
the
walking around
door,
the building.
freaking me out. But I'm sure you've heard about the ending. But the ending is, you don't know if Kurt Russell or Keith David, you don't know if they're the Thing, and it goes to black.
Yeah.
So you never know. And there's so many people that are trying to figure that out and try to decide. And then Carpenter was like, it's better because it's ambiguous.
Absolutely.
It's scarier because you don't know.
It's like going back to the less you see the monster, the more terrifying it is, because you get to decide, you know? And it kind of goes back to what I like about the first Halloween film, which is that you don't really know what's going on, and in the whole concept of the Thing is you don't know who the bad guy is. Someone amongst you is the bad guy, and you can't tell who it is, and that's a terrifying thing to think about. Like, you know, because how many times a day are you in a group of people that you don't know very well? Anyone could be a psychopath. Like,
yeah, it and I think that's what's, like, we talk about zombies and stuff like that, and I think that's what that's another thing that I think Romero, R.I.P., always got about when he said he didn't like fast zombies. And I agreed with him because, yes, that's very scary. But the following and the impeding doom is always going to be scarier because, again, if this thing is...
it's like,
well, if you're going to kill me, just kill me. He was like, well, I'm going to kill you and I'm going to take my time.
Yes.
I'm going to get there when I get there.
Well,
and I like that.
And fast zombies are scary, but like...
I mean, 28 days later and shit like that's still scary.
Yes. Love that movie. But like, if you're being chased by a fast zombie, you're dead in minutes, right? And if you're being chased by a slow zombie, you have to think about it for that much longer.
Did I get away from it? Is it still looking for me?
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's like we talked about. That's what made it follow so much.
Right.
Look at that. We went full circle. Also, I heard Carpenter, and I don't. I'm sure that you probably talked to your significant other because he seems like he likes video games.
He sure does.
Are you familiar with the game Dead Space?
Yeah, he was just playing that the other day.
Oh my god, that fucking game! Mwah!
Uh-huh.
Chef's kiss of a video game. I was playing it too. It's actually up on our YouTube. Panel Up Topic. John Carpenter said he wants to direct that. He's like, if you could direct, because he loves video games, John Carpenter. And they said, if you could do a movie, he goes, I think I could do a Dead Space. And I'm just sitting here, and I'm thinking, EA, Electronic Arts, do you not like money? What are we waiting for? The dude is a walking corpse himself. We don't know when he's going to go. He's in his 80s. Yeah. Let the man make a Dead Space movie.
Let him do as many creative things as he wants to do. You don't have to release them now. Just let him do it.
But here's what you're going to have to do. I feel like what's going to happen is you're going to have to talk to your significant other, and you're going to have to be like, hey, I got homework for next year's Spooktacular. I need to at least watch you play through Dead Space. I don't have to play through it. Watch you play through it.
He would love that.
Just
much.
Get into it and get into that lore, because I will talk for hours about Dead Space because
we can absolutely do that.
Because and this is I could save it for that, but I'll just tell you now. I talked about it because it's the Spooktacular. I remember when that game was coming out. Sure enough, yesterday was its 14th anniversary. When it was coming out, I had a subscription to Game Informer. So I'd read about it because it was one of the covers. I was amped up for it. I was so excited for it. And I saw the reviews that said it did well. Everybody loved it. I remember, this is how, I might be showing my age a little bit. I rented it from Gamefly, where it was like, at the time, it was like the Netflix for games, where they would just send you, they still exist somehow. Sponsor us. And so I heard about it, and I was like, boom, put it at the top of my list. And I immediately rented it because I knew I wasn't going to be able to get it, because when the new games came out, it was always questionable on when you could get it. And also, I had just started a job, so I actually had money to spend. And I was a teenager, so I didn't have responsibilities. I could buy a video game every week.
Right.
So I remember getting it, putting it in my PS3, sitting down in my bedroom, turn off all the lights, crank up the TV, and I'll never forget that, because I remember, because the beginning of the game, I don't know if you've seen the beginning of the game, but you go into the ship that you're supposed to be in, the USG Ishimura, And you go in, and it's got a lot of Alien and like Carpenter inspirations to it. So I understand why he would be like, oh, I can make this. Because it deals with gore and body horror and all that. But you get in, you do your thing, and the whole time, I don't have a weapon. I don't have anything on me. And I'm like, when is this? Even then, when I'm a teenager, I'm like, okay, when's the scare? What's going to happen?
Yeah.
Lights go out for a minute, open up, and these big monsters that kind of look like people, but got spikes on the end of their hands, and like their faces all messed up, and there's like all this like red, fleshy looking thing, murders all your friends. All the
God.
Well, all your friends, all the mercenaries that would be with you, because like obviously we got to have a game here,
Right.
and then they start chasing you, but you don't have any weapons, and they're just like run, and I'm like,
Oh God.
what do I do? And it's just like run, and so you run, you get into an elevator, and my wife's rolling her eyes because I've described this so many times. You get into the elevator and it shuts, and then you see the arm poke through the elevator hole, rip the elevator door open, and it stares at you for a second, and it's just long enough to hold the shot to be like, well, what the fuck am I going to do? Because I don't have anything to fight. And it just, boom, shuts the door shut, and it chops its head off.
Oh my God. Okay.
And the head lands into the elevator. And then after that, I was like, I'm in. I'm hooked. And then I proceeded to play the rest of it, and it was amazing, and I love it so much. Then the second one came out, and it got a little more action-oriented, and then the third one was like straight up just an action movie. And I'm like, oh, we're just kind of going there. So, and there's a ton of lore behind it. There's a lot, like, it was weird because when it came out, EA was like, we've got to make this a franchise. So they're like, here's the first game. Here's a movie, an animated movie. Here's a comic book series. Here's another animated movie. And it's like, okay, this seems like a little bit much.
Right.
But there's like a whole lore of like, because the monsters that you fight are actually people that turn into them.
Okay.
So like they get into contact with this thing called a marker. And then it will like, and in the second game, I'll show you a clip of it because the second game is bonkers because they got these like things that fly around and they stick a needle like almost thing that comes like an antenna thing. And they stick it in their head and it reanimates corpses and can turn them into these things called necromorphs. In the second game, you're being, because when you come into contact with a marker, it develops dementia. And so you're kind of recapping the first events of the first game through like, do you remember this, Isaac? And it's an introduction. And then the guy's talking to you and you start freaking out and he goes, it's okay, because your dead girlfriend shows up and she's like opens her mouth and goes, and it just lights. And we'll get back there. But there's a scene where the guy that is talking to you grabs you and goes, you're all right, we're going to be okay. Then those flying things come in and the shot is it comes in from the back, sticks on his forehead, and his head just starts shaking like that, and then his flesh starts to fall off. His jaw like changes shape, and like his skin is fucking nuts, man. Those games, and again, you're in a straitjacket. You have no weapon, and you just you just have to run.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's just a terrifying concept. Like.
Oh, those
games
are
what do
incredible.
you do when something's coming for you, but you have no way to stop it, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
All right. I'll watch that. I'll watch someone play that. I won't play it, but...
I would like to get Ashley to play it, but I feel like she'd freak. She doesn't play them. She'll play them with me, and then she'll look up guides to, like, get me out of it faster, because she's like, I just don't want you to be here anymore.
See, the thing about... Because I've had people ask me to play video games with them before. I was never allowed to play video games, so I understand the concept of how to play a video game, but like I don't know how to play a video game. You know what I mean? And so I don't want to slow anyone down. So
well, and but I'm just saying John Carpenter needs to make those movies. Is all I'm saying.
I'd watch that.
At least one.
I will watch anything that John Carpenter has directed.
I would agree.
Has his hands in.
Even Ghosts of Mars. Even. You remember that?
I have not seen that one.
That is a
classic.
You don't need to see that. It has Ice Cube in it.
All right.
That's all I remember. I really don't remember anything else from that movie. Or Vampires with James Woods. Remember that one?
I do want to see that one. I have not seen that one.
It is.
I've heard it's good.
It is like 90s camp. So if you're into 90s.
See, and I like that.
There you go.
I love a campy movie that knows it's a campy movie.
All right. Well,
You know.
as we wrap up the
Yes.
Spooktacular, is there any movie that we might not have talked about
Mm-hmm.
that you would recommend to someone to watch? Because this is coming out
Yes.
October 31st, this episode, Halloween
Yes.
Day or Halloween night. Somebody's at home. What are they going to watch? Grace, what's your recommendation?
Well, my go-to Halloween Day movie is always Rocky Horror Picture Show. Because
I
it's
fucking hate that movie.
I love that movie so much.
Either you love it or you hate it. There's no in between.
There is no in between. There is no in between. That was another movie I saw very, very young. I knew all the words to the Time Warp when I was 4 years old, and I have a lyric from that movie tattooed on my body. Again,
I am not denying the impact of the movie.
Yes.
It's a cult classic.
It's very kitschy. It knows what it is. It's absurd, but I watch that every
Keep
single
in mind,
Halloween.
when I watched it, I was very drunk. so maybe
That probably had something to do with it. Again, Halloween classic. Trick or Treat. I love very much.
it's
That's
an anthology movie.
yes. Yes,
Oh,
that's
7.
I'm gonna be Sam this year for Halloween. I
Oh.
made a onesie. I'm pretty excited
Nice.
about it.
That's a good
let's
one.
see what
I do
else.
like Trick or Treat.
Yes. It's because, again, like, it knows what it is, and it's a little ridiculous. And if you want something less spooky, Hocus Pocus is always a go-to.
Did you watch the second one?
I did. Did you guys?
Ashley
did you
did.
like
Ashley did. I did not.
it? Did you like it? No.
She gives
I-
a shrug.
Here's what I loved about it. It's so clearly a love letter to the first one. So clearly a love letter.
It was made for you. It was made for our
It was
generation.
made for the people that have been waiting
Yeah,
this
yeah.
long to see it.
I want a prequel. I want the young witches.
How good were
They
those
were
girls?
so good. They casted that perfectly. I
Yeah.
want the mother witch to be a part of it more.
Yes.
I want that.
Yes.
That is what I want.
Yes, because they're already talking about making a third one, and I'm like, you can't. And one of the reasons why I think that it was as good as I think it was anyway is that they waited so long and they took their time and they listened to what the fans actually wanted. And that, spoiler alert if you haven't seen it, but at the end, when she's so excited that she's disappearing.
Here, you just take the mic.
That's when she's so excited that she's disappearing because she gets to see her sisters again. I cried.
Yeah.
I cried. I was like, how beautiful. Because what does she say? Marvelous or something like that. And she's disappearing. And you're like, this is so beautiful.
They didn't bring back. They didn't bring back the kids. All the sisters are back.
That's Thora Birch wanted to come back as Danny, but I think she had
It was a scheduling thing.
yeah,
from what
she had
I've
a
read.
conflict.
Mhm.
So if they do another sequel, maybe she'll come back. I hope they don't. But Billy Butcherson came back.
Yes.
Doug Jones, who I adore. Doug Jones has been in so many horror films that you love, but you have no idea that
Right,
he's in
because
them.
he's always the monster.
He's always the monster. Well, like if you've seen Pan's Labyrinth, he's the Pale Man.
He's Harry and the Hendersons. He's a Sasquatch.
He's Harry in the Hendersons.
I'm pretty sure he is. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's a Sasquatch.
Oh,
Let me look it up. I want to make
Please
sure.
look that up right now. Well,
But oh, okay. We'll take a quick break while she takes a potty break. So we got Hocus Pocus, Hocus Pocus.
Hocus
too.
Pocus.
Obviously, yeah, you can't go wrong with like the class, like Friday the 13th, Halloween. You can't go wrong with those.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like
I
the
would
OGs.
I would argue that's not true because the first Halloween's pretty good. I would say the first Nightmare on Elm Street is better than the first Friday the 13th.
Yes.
But I don't know if I would go as far to say it was better than Halloween. I don't know.
Halloween's always
You're
going to be my
biased,
favorite.
though. I'm not looking at
super
you.
biased. Halloween will always be my favorite. I do very much enjoy Freddy Krueger, though. I think he's a very interesting character.
And
think
they made him into a comedy character.
they did.
And it works, though. It works.
It works. And I
'Cause
think
he's cracking jokes in that first
there are
movie.
some jokes where it goes a little too far. Like there's the one where he's the Wicked Witch of the West, and he says, "I'll get you, my pretty, and your little soul too," or something like that. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, that sixth movie
That's-
where he kills one of them. I think it's Breckenmeyer, where he kills him in a video game, and it's like a Nintendo-looking video game, and
Yeah.
I'm like, what are we doing?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so I think some of them are a little too far. And I don't think that there should have been as many as there were. And I feel that way about the Halloween movies. I don't like Resurrection never should have happened.
Is that the one with Busta Rhymes?
It sure is. I've never been able to get through that one.
Oh.
Like it's that
That
ridiculous.
might have been H2O. I don't know. I think it was H2O.
H2O is LL Cool J. Yeah, and that one I enjoyed that one.
Yeah.
It's not as good as the original, obviously, but it's still good.
Yeah.
The one with Paul Rudd is a trip.
That's 5?
6? I think it's 6.
Because that's the one where they introduce.
Curse,
it's a cult, right?
Yeah.
A cult. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
those fucking movies, man.
Paul Rudd is supposed to be Tommy Wallace.
See, and this is the problem I run into. Why do they even bother? Why do they bother like going to these lengths of doing cults and Dream Warriors and
because they need a new idea.
Look, Dream Warriors is fine. That's a fine movie, but
right.
But yeah, at a certain point, it's like you're overcomplicating it.
Right. Again, like make it its own thing.
Or
like don't.
Or just just.
But it's because people love a Friday the 13th.
More
movie.
people need to do the Predator approach. And just drop like Jason in a different time and frame and just have him do that. Like just make everything anthologies. Because when you start connecting it and doing like cults and Dream Warriors and demons.
And then people get bored of it. And then you're making crappy movies out of something that used to be great.
And then Wes Craven, R.I.P., just comes along and is like, New Nightmare. Now you're back in.
I did love the concept of
New Nightmare is great.
Yeah.
Just the meta.
Yeah.
And you could tell that's why that was the lead-in to Scream.
Yeah.
Which
Scream
we didn't talk about Scream. There's just not enough time in the day.
There's not enough time. Next year.
Oh, Final Destination. Oh my God. You know what? That's my recommendation.
Yes.
Go on HBO Max. They have all 5 movies in a collection and just watch those.
There are, I think, very few movies that every single person in the world can connect to a different moment. Like if you're driving behind a truck.
It's traumatized a whole generation.
It's traumatized an entire generation. The other day I was driving behind a guy that had a long ladder sticking out of his truck and I was like, this is my Final Destination moment. I'm about to die. Like,
Yeah.
And I love when that happens. When, oh no.
Oh, the baby's crying.
Oh no. But everyone, even people that haven't seen that movie know that. Or it's like the same thing with Psycho. Like, people who haven't seen Psycho know what means. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's a good pull. I know that Ashley said that, but I'm gonna use that. That's my recommend. Maybe you don't have time to watch all 5 movies on Halloween, but at least watch one of them. And that's a great example of a horror franchise that said anthology. That's what we got to do. Mm-hmm. And I think that's mostly because Devon Sawa didn't come back for the second one, so they're like, well, he died, and now this person can do it. And then they just kind of kept that theme.
Yeah. And
I like that, except for the 5th one. The 5th one actually ties in to the first one.
Does it? See, I never saw the 5th one. I think
you can honestly watch the 5th one and then go back and watch the first one, because the 5th one ends where the first one begins. Oh. So it ends, because the first one has the... Well, yeah, I guess, because...
We've spoiled all the... Go ahead.
No.
I'm not going to
You got mad at me for spoiling a movie from 2006. Well, I never saw that one. Well, Leatherface
that's my own
saws
fault.
people up.
Thank you.
Yeah. Don't watch any of those movies, but watch the original and then watch the second one.
The original is good.
The second one is a middle finger.
Yes.
Where he's like, was it Toby Hill? Toby Miller? Toby
Hooper.
Hooper.
Yeah.
He did not want to make that second movie, so he was like, fuck you, I'm going to make a comedy out of it.
Yeah.
And it works.
That's Bill Moseley, man. I love him so much. He plays Chop Top.
Oh, my God, Chop Top. Yeah.
He's something else. He's also in, like, a bunch of Rob Zombie films.
Watch the first 2 Texas Chainsaw movies.
Yeah. I love all the behind-the-scenes stuff to the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Like, the fact that house was not... cooled, and so it was like 120 degrees in there.
So they were like, she was legit freaking out at the, because didn't she get like legitimately cut or something?
Yeah, the scene where they cut her finger and then the grandpa like sucks her blood, whatever.
That was real.
Did that.
Yeah.
And then again, I don't know if this is true or not, but this is what I've heard, that the guy that plays like the brother or whoever got so hot and disoriented that he actually thought that they were trying to kill this girl, and like he was a Vietnam vet, and he said that just the conditions that they were in that day was worse than being in the conditions of Vietnam. And so
there you go. Also, I've heard rumors, I don't know if this is true, but this is a movie I really wanted to see in theaters, but I think by the time this goes live it will be on HBO Max. So I won't give you a review of it now, but I've heard Barbarian is coming to HBO Max.
I think so. I've heard amazing
I've heard
things.
It's great. They did an amazing, and to wrap this up, they did an amazing, and I've said that like for 20 minutes.
It's the Spooktacular,
it's
Jake.
It's the Spooktacular. They did a trailer that said Justin Long's next movie. And I was like, what? Because I hadn't seen him in forever. So I was like,
Yeah.
what is this? So I click on it, and it looks like it's another Justin Long vehicle. Like it's him being in a new movie, and like, I don't know if you should do this, man. Da, 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 da. Then the trailer changes, and it was a fucking trailer for Barbarian the whole time. And there's like Barbarian in theaters now. It's like this amazing horror movie. Da, da, da. I was like,
did not see that.
oh, that's clever. So that's what got
That
me
is
into
smart.
it. Because I'd heard about it, but I'd never seen anything about it. And then I saw that trailer, and I was like, oh.
Yeah.
But I think by the time this goes up, it might already be on HBO Max. Tusk. I love
heard
Tusk.
very mixed reviews about it. I've heard people say, do not see this movie. You cannot unsee it. But then I've heard it's pretty great.
Kevin Smith was on this one because it was that one is a good one. I enjoyed it. I don't think Ashley liked it very much, but I liked it.
Okay.
Because it's it's a strange
interesting
concept.
Yeah.
But he got it from his podcast because it was a fake ad that he was like, there's no way this could be real, and they were reading it about a man who wanted another guy to wear a walrus suit that he made that would fit a man, and he said, I will feed you and take care of you, but I want you to be like my pet walrus. And it's like his whole thing about he lost at sea and his best friend was a walrus and all that. Then the guy comes out and said it was fake.
Right.
But he did hashtag walrus yes or hashtag walrus no, because he's like, I want to make this a fucking movie. I want to make this movie. And then a bunch of people said, the hashtag, and then he made the movie. And it is real fucked up. And by the end of it, you're like, well,
this is what it is.
I didn't know what I was expecting.
But it wasn't that.
Yeah.
Speaking of human beings being in suits of some kind, Midsommar.
That's a movie. That's a movie.
That is, I've
when
described
the old
it
man
before.
Kills himself when he jumps off the cliff.
Yes.
And there's and I'm like, oh my
and you see
God.
the whole thing. And I've described that movie before. The acting is outstanding.
Oh yeah, Florence Pugh is incredible.
I love Florence Pugh. The cinematography is spectacular. The story is great. Everything about that movie is fantastic. I will never watch it again.
That's another movie. That's another
yeah.
movie that has it serves the story, but I don't like watching it. But I mean, there's a date rape scene in that, and I was like, ugh.
Yeah.
I was already, but again, that adds to the uncomfortableness of the movie, and that's kind of what it's going for.
Yeah.
But even then, I'm like, can we not?
Right.
But it is what it is.
Also, Hereditary.
And you know what else? That's a rare case in a horror movie where the man was raped.
Yes.
Because he was dead.
Yes.
So there you go.
That whole movie, it's just it's brilliant. But
good stuff.
But yeah, Hereditary. Same
guy. Yeah.
Yeah. Same thing. Loved that movie.
I have not seen that one yet.
You have not? Oh my God! I watched the ending.
Did you watch? Ashley looked
No, you didn't like it.
She has this thing where if it's a horror movie that she's iffy about, she'll kind of look up the plot synopsis and be like, nah.
Do you know the ending? Okay, I saw the ending, and I kid you not, I sat there and just stared at the screen for 20 minutes after that because I couldn't do anything. And then as the credits are rolling, it's that Joni Mitchell song. It's Clouds Illusions, I recall. I really don't know Clouds at all. That one. I really don't know Love at all. Is that what it's called?
I'm sure if I heard it, I'd probably know.
I think that's the song. And you're just like, why is this happening? Why? And it's such a good movie. It's got so many good moments. We'll never watch it again.
Another recommendation.
Yes.
Of a movie that we didn't talk about. It's
Yes.
arguably one of my favorite movies of all time. Easily one of my favorite horror movies. Another horror comedy, you could say. An American Werewolf in London.
I love
that movie.
Oh my goodness. The transformation is just so
I keep trying to end it, but the more we talk, the more I think of another movie.
I know.
But that movie, because you reminded me, because that movie ends with the Marcel's version of Blue Moon.
Yes.
And it's such a bomb, and it's like
it's
the dude is dead.
It's a direct contrast to what has just happened.
And again, it does what a horror movie should do, and the main character's dead. And I was like, fuck, because you're like this guy was literally just trying to enjoy a summer in Europe.
Yeah, he was trying to have the time of his life.
His friend gets murdered, and he's haunted by a zombie. Oh, you have something you gotta say? It's my son.
He did not like that movie.
No.
He's not a fan.
Yeah, but yeah, and the dude, they both end up dead by the end of the movie, which is wild.
That zombie makeup is incredible too.
Yeah,
Like,
and I love that his nightmares. He's Jewish and he's getting attacked by Nazi werewolves.
that whole sequence is so bizarre, but you're like, I get it.
Before he becomes a werewolf, the dreams are really weird.
Yeah.
And it's John Landis, and he's mostly a comedy guy coming in and doing it. And I'll never forget it because I need to get it on Blu-ray. I had like a special edition DVD where they did a interview, and he said the problem was I couldn't sell it because it was too funny to be a horror movie and it was too scary to be a comedy.
Right.
And it's just funny that was a problem in the early 80s where now horror comedy, because it is tricky. It is tricky to get it.
It is, and there's
but
a very
comedy
fine
and
line.
horror can work so well. I mean,
Absolutely.
like I mentioned earlier, Shaun of the Dead is a great example of a movie that I did not like at first because I didn't quite get it. And then I watched it a second time. And the more as I watched it, it's one of those things, as the longer I sat with it and actually gave it a chance, is a movie that I enjoyed and it turned out to be one of my favorite, another amazing horror movie that I think about all the time.
Right. Well, and Jordan Peele said about Get Out, he said that if he had put a different soundtrack to it, it would have been a comedy, you know? So it's so...
Yeah, because that movie's
it's
still
such
pretty
a fine
funny.
line.
Yeah.
It's got these absurd moments in it.
Little Rel's hilarious. So
oh my God.
and he's
his
so good in
character
that.
is so good in that. But...
did you watch the original ending for Get Out?
No.
The original ending, he gets arrested and taken to jail because they blame it all on him. And I think that was Peele's original plan, and then I think the test screening was like,
it's not what people wanted.
or
yeah.
I think he himself was like, it was too dark, even for this.
Right.
I'm not
you gotta
saying,
leave it with a little levity.
I think I would argue that I think Us is better than Get Out personally.
I don't know which one I love them
Even
both.
though the twist in Get Out or in Us was kind of telegraphed.
That ending when they're all holding hands, I'm just like, this is a little much.
Yeah, I like that, but I just like because
the idea behind
again,
it.
Ashley, I hate watching movies, but because her and I, it's like we're watching the movie, and then her and I kind of go like this. Well, we go into this thing where like we're trying to predict what's going to happen.
Right.
Like, we're trying to,
Right.
and Get Out and Us, she both predicted that.
Yeah.
Well, once you see the one dude that like take a picture and he freaks out, you're like, okay, they're using those people as vessels.
Right.
Like, okay, that.
Well, and sometimes that works when you know what's going to happen, but that's what you want to happen, so you're satisfied when it does.
When you do it, when you telegraph it enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's a difference between a movie being predictable and a movie going where you want it to go.
And I think it was kind of obvious that you could have figured out in Us that the one that was talking like this was her from the beginning. And I was like, oh, yeah.
Which is still a great twist.
Still a good twist.
Okay.
You knew it was coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you liked it because you're like, oh, good, smart. I
have not seen Nope yet.
I have not either.
I've heard it's great. I've
heard it is too.
Yeah.
And it's not what you think it is. I've heard people think it's an alien invasion movie, but it's not quite that.
Okay.
Yeah. Nope.
Did you Google it?
No, she just did Nope as a joke.
Oh.
Yeah. Are we sure? Are we good? Is there anything else?
Real quick, I would like to talk about. Wait.
A Nightmare Before Christmas.
A Nightmare Before Christmas.
You know what? That's a
great.
You know what? That's a whole Spooktacular 2 debate where we could talk about if that's a Christmas movie, or if it's a Halloween movie, if it's both.
I have heard that it is a Thanksgiving movie because it's between.
I mean, that's what Burton was talking about.
Yeah.
The juxtaposition of the two holidays.
But yeah, watch it. If you watch it on Halloween, it's a Halloween movie.
If you
watch it on Christmas, it's a Christmas movie.
That's the beauty of it. You can watch it in both.
It's very interchangeable. But real quick, I want to talk about the Blair Witch Project because that movie, and we kind of talked about it a little bit. It's so brilliant because literally it was were the filmmakers in college? I don't remember.
I think that and Paranormal Activity, they were student films.
Yes. So it's 2 filmmakers and 3 college kids in the woods for 3 days, and that's all it was. And
they created a freaking genre,
an entire genre. And to be fair, found footage movies did exist, but it like Halloween, it really defined what it was going to be in the future. And
we got a laughing baby. And he slobbered on my mic. Yeah. Nothing more precious
than a baby slapper.
But yeah,
unless you don't have a baby and it's 3 a.m. But
they created a whole genre, Yeah. It was made on a shoestring budget.
And it was so simple because literally what they did was they gave them like an outline, and they're like, this is kind of where the movie's going. And then they dropped them off in the woods, and they gave them like a GPS tracker where they were supposed to go. And at each checkpoint, they all had like a little canister with their instructions for the day. And like Heather didn't know what the guys had. They didn't know what she had. And they just had to follow that. And the whole thing's like improvised. It's so simple, but think about the cultural impact that movie has had. Yeah. Again, everyone knows that scene where she's crying and she's sobbing, and even if you haven't seen the movie, you know what that's
It's from. Also kind of crazy because almost 10 years later, same thing with Paranormal Activity.
Yes,
almost the same thing. Almost the same thing where the people reacted to Blair Witch with Paranormal Activity, where they thought it was real.
Right.
And that was, to me, that's what I remember the most about them, more than the movies. Was just like everybody's like, "Oh my god, it's real." Whatever.
Well, and the great thing about the Blair Witch Project is it was at the very beginning of the internet, so they made a website where it was like, have you seen 1999, these people? And was it I can't remember if it was the Cannes Film Festival or one of the film festivals, they put up flyers like, have you seen these kids, and we're looking for them or whatever. And so people thought it was real. And nowadays you can like Google, was this real, and then right away you find out. And I think that's another reason why that movie was so impactful. Because
also, fun fact, Barbarian is directed by one of the guys from The Whitest Kids You Know, the sketch group.
Really?
Yeah.
That's, again, horror and comedy just go hand in hand.
There you go.
That's when I met James Murray of Impractical Jokers, I asked him a question about because he wrote a horror book, and I was like, do you think that because you do comedy and horror are so interchangeable that it was easy for you? And he quoted someone, I can't remember who it was, but he said the only difference between horror and comedy is timing. And I was like, yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, because you have to, like with jokes, you have to land them, you have to do it, your timing has to be perfect. And with horror, it can be very slow paced, and
I'm smiling because I just thought of another movie.
And you know what? Keep going. Cut as much of it out.
You know what?
Part two.
Part two. But we're not bringing it back until 20.
Cemetery.
Only for the line of sometimes dead is better.
Yes, that Pet Cemetery.
I don't know what voice that was. That was Christopher Lee more than it was fucking Munster guy. I can't remember his name. Fred something. But no, I was thinking of timing, pace. Pace is so important to horror. Yeah. And I remember I saw Insidious, the first one, in theaters.
Yes.
And I remember there's a part where he's talking about his brother like getting up and walking around, and he's like comatose, and he said he's seen him at night. That line was creepy enough to unsettle me.
Yeah.
And therefore the pacing of the rest of the movie was perfect because I had that feeling, and then that's a movie that I think kind of falls apart in the third act, but mostly because I'm like when he goes into the mind space or whatever, and the weird creepy smiling stuff, and I'm like, I mean, it works, but I don't know. I didn't know. But again, a tragic ending.
Yeah.
It works every time for me.
Every time. And then the second one, and you're
yes. You know what's funny? I only watched the first one.
Really? I really enjoyed the second one because it's like a direct sequel to the first one. And then you get into...
How do they fix Patrick Wilson?
I don't know. You'll have to watch the second one.
I guess what we're trying to say is shout out to James Wan. Malignant, Saw, Insidious.
Well, and
dude just makes bangers.
What's his name?
Conjuring.
His part Lee something. Lee and he was
Wayne. I think it was Len Wein or Len Wayne. It's like W-E-I-N,
yeah, it's
right?
like Lee Win something.
L-E-H.
But he's the guy that plays Adam in the first Saw movie.
Yeah. He co-wrote it with James.
Yeah. And he's in Insidious.
I think he wrote like the first three, if I remember correctly, or he was a part of writing the first three Saw movies.
Yeah.
Ready or Not?
Ready or Not is so good. You want to hear a fun fact about
Ready or Not? Fucking rules.
I watched that the day after Adam told me that he didn't want to get married, and it's about a bride named Grace.
Oh.
And I was just like, huh? At that point, we were still getting married, though.
We're definitely going to cut that part out.
No, you do not have to keep that
in. No, that movie caught me off guard. I actually saw it first.
It's very...
And then she's like, you would love this.
Well, because it's one of those where
funny.
You think you know where it's going, you don't. You know,
It's one of those movies that isn't necessarily scary, but there's so much tension.
It's
and it's funny.
I love a good like psychological.
The ending
thriller.
is incredible that
It's
they
so-
went to
and
that level.
Oh my god!
Because originally, and I heard the original ending wasn't like that. I think the original ending. She survived. Like, or no, they changed the line or something. Her last line is different.
Yeah.
But yeah, the way because I'm sitting there and I'm like, are they gonna do it? Are they gonna commit to this bit?
Right.
And then when that first chick just explodes, I'm like, oh my,
And
okay.
it's so absurd, but you're like, yes.
Yeah, and you want that to happen because you're like,
Yes.
fuck these rich people.
Right.
Like, they deserve this. Another
Yeah.
one, but it's a downer. It's a movie that ends on such a sour note, and it kind of works. Would You Rather? That movie's fucked up.
Yeah, that again, great movie. It sat with me for so long.
Spoilers. I don't know if you're gonna watch it. So
Right.
it
It's
ends
got
up.
Brittany Snow in it.
Brittany Snow ends up. She's all doing this, trying to make. All these people are desperate and they need money, and there's this rich guy that like puts them through these games to get it.
Yeah.
She straight up kills a guy.
Yeah.
Shoots
because
this man.
Her brother has cancer, and it's just
So
them. It's just those two.
It was like survive being drowned for like 4 or 5 minutes.
Yeah,
of it.
she was.
One girl
hers
did it
was-
and died.
Yeah, hers was 2 minutes, and
2
then the girl
minutes.
that died had to be drowned for 4 minutes, and that's
And
why
she
died.
But
But it's like
instead
that,
of
and
drowning, or she could shoot the guy
Yeah.
because it's down to her and another guy. She kills the guy,
Uh-huh.
goes home, finds out her brother died anyway.
Yeah, he took some pills and overdosed, and because he felt like a
he
burden to her.
He killed himself, and I was like,
And
good.
she did this for him, and like it's so
It's this movie about like
upsetting.
classism and all this shit, and I'm like, geez, man, that movie
Yeah.
ends on such a sour note.
It's brilliantly done. Again, the acting's incredible. It sat
But
with
the
me
gut
for
punch
so
to kill him at the end.
long.
was like,
I know, and it's and what that one lady gets stabbed in the leg and then she dies.
Yeah. Oh man, and they brought out the thing where they were whipping each other. Oh, jeez.
Yes, and that one guy just like had to keep being whipped, and then he like obviously died.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
and there was almost an R
Yeah.
scene in there. I don't know why I'm censoring myself
Yeah.
now, but
The guy that had to hold the firecracker gets me every single time.
yeah,
Great.
we've been trying to end this show for half an hour. We're almost at the 2-hour
I was
mark.
gonna say just we can just keep talking, and
We
then,
got
delete
8
the
and a
ones that
half.
you don't
We
wanna
got
talk
8 and a
about.
half more minutes. Let's just work this out to 2 hours. Why not?
Okay. Again, it's the Spooktacular. It happens once a year.
A magical time.
Casper.
Fuck cat. No, I'm kidding.
Did you ever
I
watch?
never watched Casper as a kid.
No.
No.
I think I saw the first one. I saw the first one very young. I think I was like 6.
Isn't Devon Sawa in the first one?
Yeah.
Idle Hands. Have we not fucking talked about
Casper
Idle
and
Hands?
Wendy. Oh, I love that one. It is. It's a very, very young Hilary Duff.
I was
And,
gonna. I was talking. Idle Hands was where I went with Devon Sawa, which underrated '90s classic. Did you ever, Ashley? Have you ever seen it? No. Yes, you watched it with me. Did you enjoy it? Did you watch it? Or did you enjoy it? I mean, she does not remember. It was a while ago.
Also, I thought that you said I watched it with you and Lincoln, and I was like, all right.
Yeah, it was
Lincoln was watching this movie. All right.
Have you seen Idle Hands?
I don't think
Idle
I
Hands?
have. I don't think I have.
It's Devon's. It's the concept of Evil Dead 2, where Devon Sawa's I think his left hand or right, one of his hands, gets possessed by the devil, and
Okay.
it's a slasher movie where he's trying to not be a slasher because his hand keeps killing people.
Okay. Is it any good?
It's a comedy. It's 90s comedy, so
All right.
you go-
Grain of salt. Grain
yeah,
of salt.
go with lowered expectations. This
Yeah.
movie was made in 98, 99, around that
Alright.
time. I will never forget this because I watched that movie way too much. But it's more comedic, so I But I remember it because he chops off his hand just like he does in Evil Dead. He tries to do it with a bagel slicer, and the blade just bends on his hand,
Ew.
and they're like, I can't even
Alright.
fucking cut a bagel with that, dude. Oh, he kills his friends.
Oh.
The hand does, but his friends come back as like they said that they had unfinished business or whatever. So like zombies, pretty much. And one of them he chopped off his head, so they like duct tape his head back onto his body and stuff. And it's very silly. What? I'm not spoiling it. She's not gonna watch it. But I'll never forget it because there's one like they go to there's a big dance they're going to, and the hand at this point, the longer it's been off his body, is look more like gray and whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot. No, I'm not gonna ruin that kill. So, but it gets into the school and then it puts its fingers into a pencil sharpener to make its fingers more pointy and it's easier to kill people with it. And then I remember the scene. They're at this dance and the Offspring is there. It's not the Offspring in the movie, but it's the Offspring. It's playing this dance, and the lead singer of the Offspring, like they break in and like, you need to get out of here. There's a killer on the loose. It's gonna, he's like, we're gonna keep partying, whatever. As he says that, the hand lands on top of his head, grabs him like this, and rips his scalp open.
Oh.
And then everybody's like, oh my God, freaking out. And then freaking out. It's pandemonium. It's a horror comedy, though. There's a lot of humor in it.
All right. I'll give it a shot.
He kills it. Also, it takes over a puppet at one point. And he takes a bong rip and blows it into the... Yeah, it's a stupid movie. I fucking love that movie, though. I'll defend that movie.
I've run out of movies.
We've done it.
I think we're there.
Hotel Transylvania? Why? Adam, have you seen The Munsters? I've heard that's pretty bad.
Yes. Oh, that looks so good.
What? Wednesday?
Yeah.
Why are they releasing it next month? Why don't they?
That's what I want to know. It must have been a timing thing.
Yeah,
it must have been.
I feel like you can get away with doing stuff like that in like the first week in November.
Yeah, because there's still like a little spooky hangover.
Well, that's how Simpsons for the longest time. That's how the Simpsons, the Treehouse of Horror, would always come out like after
November.
Halloween.
That's why.
Shout out to the Treehouse of Horror, man. Those are always.
I watched a bunch of those the other day. They're all on Disney Plus.
Yeah, shout out to Disney Plus for just having it all there for you. Just be like, here's all the. We watched a couple.
Speaking of Disney Plus,
the Shinnin, is that your favorite one?
That's
Shinnin.
Ashley's. I love the Shinnin.
Also, I love the running gag. I don't know when they stopped doing it or if they kept doing it. Like for a while, those first couple Treehouse, Willie would show up, groundskeeper Willie, and always get chopped in the back with an axe.
That was there was one Treehouse of Horror where every single one he was getting chopped by an axe. Yeah.
Well, we just watched the one where Homer time travels with his toaster.
Yes.
And he's like,
oh, I love that one.
He's like, you got to get out of here.
I'm bad at this.
Yeah, get out of here. And then fucking Maggie kills him. This is a dark timeline. Yeah, I think I run out of movies too.
Yeah.
Just in my bank.
Speaking of Disney Plus, did you ever watch Mom's Got a Date with a Vampire?
No.
That is so. I want to say that it came out in 2000, and if you've seen The Nanny, it's Mr. Sheffield is the vampire, and then one of the aunts from Sabrina is the mom, and it's so good. It's fun. It's campy. It's
sure.
Also, the dad from Lizzie McGuire is like a Van Helsing character. It's
what?
It's so fun.
Speaking of Van Helsing, I love that shitty Hugh Jackman movie.
I love that movie
it's
so much.
Like, I accept it's early 2000s trash, but I love it.
It's so much fun. And I think that's a very nostalgic movie for me too, because like we saw it when it came out, and my sister loved it.
I think what it does well, and look, I feel like people can have their, but I think what it does well is the same thing I think Werewolf by Night does really well, where it is campy on purpose.
Yeah.
And it's those old adventure stuff, old horror stuff. And I hope that with Werewolf by Night, I don't know if you've seen it yet. But
I have not.
You should check it. Hey, if you need something to watch on Halloween, there
we go.
It's only an hour. It's like 55 minutes. And honestly, if you didn't see the Marvel, if you weren't watching it on Disney Plus and saw a Marvel Studios logo in front of it, you would have no idea that it's attached to the MCU. Okay. It's pretty kind of.
Yeah, I do. I want to see it.
It's because it's Marvel is trying to branch into their more horror characters,
right?
Scary characters. But that movie is so effective because it is like those Christopher Lee, like 30s horror or monster movies.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say anything to spoil it, but there's some clear like homages to that era, and just the things that they had to do at that time to make it work for those time. Like when you go back and you watch like the Wolfman, and how he turns into a werewolf, where you're like, well, you know that they shot that in reverse,
right?
So you see all that stuff, but
at the time it was like so scary and so revolutionary. And
I think that's also what's driven me to horror is how much I love the movie making process.
absolutely.
So I'm always trying to figure out how did they do this shot or how to do this.
And I love the behind the scenes stuff. And I know, you know,
should
I
watch,
love knowing how it happened.
You should watch the most recent season of the Movies That Made Us on Netflix because they talk about A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yes.
Friday the 13th.
And Halloween.
Yeah. Also talk
I
about...
think there's one more.
Yeah. I think that's about...
Hellraiser? I don't remember.
No.
But
Hellraiser. I will admit,
Yeah.
as I said earlier, I don't like that movie. I think it sucks.
I do. I like it.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I get why people like it. I do. It didn't work for me. But I will not take away the technical achievement of that movie because
No, it's brilliant.
when he comes back to life, that is one of the coolest fucking shots I've ever seen where you see his body go from bone to... Oh, no. I think she's pooping. You pooping? She's pooping. No, but when you see that shot of him going from bone to nervous system to muscle and then body, it's just wild. It's kind of insane. But sorry. I'm sorry. I'm just laughing. Ashley's trying to give me a horror movie. I don't know. I think I'm with Grace. I think I kind of ran out. I think I've talked about it pretty much. See, the problem with Stephen King is they're so hit or miss with the adaptations. Like Grace talked about it watching that first the miniseries. I did not, even at the age that I watched it, I was like, it didn't really scare me. I was kind of not into it, but keep in mind I was only like 5 or 6 when I watched that. But the new movie is incredible. Like the It and It 2, I love those. It kind of goes back to the issues that I have with Stephen King, where like in the book, I'm sure her father is more abusive, like sexually abusive, but like they really played it up in the movie, and I was just like, I get it. It adds to her terror or her fear, but I was just like, this is meh. I don't know. Ashley, you saw it. Did you think that... Because a lot of people said that the second one was too funny. What did you think about that? Oh, I didn't reach. Hold on, let me... You were in the show earlier. Spooktacular is a family affair, and I mess up the mics. But as we wrap it up, and we passed the 2-hour mark. We did it, everybody. We are a feature film in the Halloween, the off-panel, off-topic, off. I spent 2 hours talking. I can't do it. I can't end the show. And here I thought we were going to end this episode. And then my wife throws out Halloween Town from the Peanut Gallery.
Classic.
They're over here talking about the actors in the movie are together. What is that?
Yeah. So in Halloween Town 2, Calabar's Revenge.
You even got the subtitle.
So there's this guy named Cal that is like the love interest for Marnie, and you're like, oh, it's gonna be all cute, whatever. No, he's actually Calabar's son, and he's like gonna destroy Halloween Town or whatever. So
remind me, is Halloween Town? Is it kind of like the concept of Nightmare Before Christmas, where it's like it's this magical town that only celebrates Halloween, or what?
Yes, so it's
because I've never.
Yeah, it's where all the Halloween characters live.
I watched it with a kid. I don't remember any of it.
And it's like in a different dimension, sort of. It's never really explained, but you have to get on the school. But in the first one, anyway, you have to get on the school bus and like go through the portal, and then in the second one, you could like call upon the portal and go through whatever. But yeah, so in the in the second one, Cal is like into Marnie, but she's like, no, you're evil. No. Well, those two, so that movie came out in like 2003, 2002, somewhere in there. Those two actors, Marnie and Cal, I can't remember if they were like doing Comic-Cons or if they were working on a different project together years later and then started dating. And now they're engaged. And it's so cute. Oh. It's so cute. And I love when that happens because, again, that movie came out 20 years ago. and they just started dating like 4 years ago. You know, it's
Yeah, just coincidence.
I love a good reuniting.
So we talked about Halloween Town. We talked about Hocus Pocus. Yes. My mom dated a vampire.
Yeah, mom's got a date with a vampire. Oh, look at that! Here comes this guy. It's not the creepy guy from before.
We end the Spooktacular.
I'm coming.
Oh man, we end the well. Now you're gonna get killed because now we have the killer come into the movie.
This is Jimmy.
Apparently Jimmy's here. Hi. Why am I still recording and narrating it? I don't know. It's the Spooktacular.
There's a great scene in Halloween H2O.
I'll properly greet him when the show's over.
There's a great scene in Halloween H2O at the very beginning, and it's Joseph Gordon-Levitt. And
I forgot
he's got a hockey stick, and he's like, Jimmy's already been suspended how many times for getting too happy with the stick?
Oh.
Because he's like, his neighbor's house has been broken into, and he's going to be tough, and he's going to go in there. And then he gets brutally murdered by Michael Myers.
Do you remember that? Are we okay? Is it Resurrection or H2O? Did we ever solve that? The Busta Rhymes?
That he is in Resurrection.
Because he's straight up
in
like
Resurrection.
Spinning back kicks
and
Michael Myers in that movie.
And I think Tyra Banks is in that one too.
Oh God.
And because it's the whole idea is that they're doing a reality, like hidden camera-esque, where like Big Brother kind of, where they're all in this house and they've got hidden cameras and they're in the Michael Myers house.
Yeah,
and then,
it's a reality
course,
show.
Michael Myers comes back and kills them all.
You have to watch every Halloween. Jimmy included.
Jimmy included.
Oh, he just shows up at the end of the Spooktacular and he gets a spot.
Hey, Lincoln got a little.
I mean, we are recording in his house. That's only right.
That's true.
One movie I'd have to watch every Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
You go first. Halloween.
No, I already said the Rocky Horror Picture Show. I watch it it's my Halloween movie. But yeah, Halloween also I think needs to be within 3 days of Halloween.
I would say because I remember like 5 years ago, Friday the 13th was actually on Friday the 13th. So I usually watch those.
There's one next year.
Yes. So, yeah, because I was still living. I was still living in the house. Yeah, that was before we even moved to Des Moines.
Because you played the game.
Yes, and we watched the best one, part 3. I don't know. If it's a cop out, but I'd probably say Evil Dead 2. But I watch that all the time. So.
Right.
Or at the very least, some of Ash versus Evil Dead, because that show's incredible. Right. The first episode of that show could have just worked as its own thing and be like, that's enough for me. That's my closure for Ash. You're the one out here throwing movie titles. I've been trying to wrap up for an hour. All right. Well, you gotta. What are you saying? Ashley says A Nightmare Before Christmas. She plays the music in the background.
Yes.
Okay.
Jimmy.
Lincoln, what are you thinking?
Oh.
No, he's got.
I was gonna say he hasn't had a Halloween yet, so.
This is his first Halloween. I would just say, yeah, I don't know. All right, Jimmy, what's yours?
I wouldn't say it's a Halloween movie, but is it okay if it's
just a horror movie in general
Okay.
that you would watch?
Sinister. Good choice. We didn't even talk about that one.
That's a movie that.
you can't get past the first 10 seconds, it's not for you.
No. It's.
That's a movie I wish it was something different. Like,
Yeah. Did you see the Black Phone?
No.
Because the Black Phone is very, very
I need to get
Sinister-esque.
I need to get Peacock because Peacock has that and Halloween Ends on it.
It's Ethan Hawke. It's the same writer, director, everything. It's
it's
very,
Joe
very,
Hill. It's Joe Hill.
And even like the mask that he wears is very similar to the guy, the bad guy in Sinister.
It's Joe Hill.
Yes.
Stephen King's son
Uh-huh.
wrote the story, so I want to watch that. I've heard it's incredible. I've heard nothing but good things.
It's so good. It's so good.
You said Evil Dead 2. What are your thoughts on Army of
Army of we've had this discussion.
We had a whole discussion. Yeah.
But I love Army of Darkness.
Yeah. He's a big Evil Dead guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Big Evil Dead guy.
Yeah.
However,
she's Ash Williams.
However, I will not forget the studio, whoever didn't let them do it, who didn't let them name Army of Darkness Medieval Dead. They should be thrown. They wouldn't let. That was the idea for the title, and they didn't go for it. I don't.
Was it like a licensing thing?
I don't know. I think it's because they wanted to differentiate Evil Dead 2 from Army of Darkness.
I was going to say, did they want it to like branch out into its own thing?
I think it was. As you know, it's studios who have bad ideas, so it was probably the studio who did it. But
Sounds like Evil Dead, but medieval.
come on, the pun is right there.
Perfect.
It sounds like a Brian Regan bit where he saw someone like someone's roofing company.
Somebody roofing.
Someone on the roof.
Oh.
Fiedler.
It was like Fiedler Roofing Company. Come on, Fiedler on the roof.
Fiedler on the roof.
That was Brian Regan.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the way to end it. Fiedler on the roof. That's how we're
Fiedler
gonna-
on the roof.
I'm still pissed about that. Medieval Dead.
That was a very poor decision.
Whoever said no to that, throw them in the pit that Ash was thrown in at the beginning
You know
of that
what?
movie.
I may have liked it just a little bit more if it had been called Medieval Dead.
Yes. Thank
I
you.
may have liked it just a little bit more.
Whatever. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween, everybody.
Get spooked.
Get spooked. Check your candy.
Check your candy for the rate. Did you see? I saw a meme where it was a Snickers broken in half. Okay, yeah. Can we talk? We'll talk about that with candy episode one of these years.
Yeah.
But like, I saw the one where they legalized it, and they're like, these people are giving away edibles, and I'm like, what fucking pothead gives away an edible?
No one's going to do that.
You know how expensive edibles are?
I was going to say, nobody wants to give your children a free edible.
I can promise you, nobody wants to give your kids drugs for free.
No. They're going to find them somewhere else
get
and
some
sell
money,
them.
yeah.
But
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, check your candy, I guess.
Yeah. Have you heard this thing how witches are hexing candy and handing it out?
Have
you heard about this?
How did we not talk about the Hocus Pocus video?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Because this lady believes that shit.
They were conjuring spirits.
Yeah.
I don't want my kids to slip into witchcraft.
People, it takes all kinds of kinds, but
I just want... They're going to get swept up into something. I hope it's quilting or something. Maybe crocheting. Crocheting. Why not croquet?
you know what? Croquet is its own separate, like...
I know.
You know,
I was trying to do... I knew
like
what...
Southern
I know,
bells and big hoop
I know what you
dresses.
do is crocheting, but I said croquet, and I was like, what?
Technically, what I do is knitting.
Knitting... I'm sorry.
So-
There's a difference.
There
I'm
is
sure.
a difference.
The technique.
Yeah. The tools.
All right, Grace. 2
Yes.
hours and 11 minutes.
Well, this was so much fun.
This might be like top 5 lengthwise.
Yeah.
This is one of the longer ones.
That's, you know what? It's a
Top 5. That's what she said.
It's a
Satan,
special.
you're all
it's-
demons.